16 November 1855.
I read the most amazing thing today in the London News. I must learn more about this botanical, as it appears to greatly benefit the human condition. Its name is Garcinia mangostana, a fruit from Southeast Asia. It appears local healers have been using it for over 1,000 years with great and marvelous success. If this is true, mankind must be told, and great credit given to Almighty God for creating it.
The thing that I like about this is the fact that it's an all-natural product. I'm not taking drugs anymore. I'm not taking any type of chemicals, and it's all natural, and it's just much better for your health.
Everybody needs a little mind opening once in a while, and I'm very happy that I had the opportunity to try it. I would encourage people to try it before they get backed into a corner.
Found out I actually had a very long-standing case of Lyme disease. It had so infected my brain and my internal organs that it was causing my immune system to attack my nervous system and everything else.
For type 1s, it can lower your having to take as much insulin.
When I got out of my surgery, the doctors and the nurses were all shocked and surprised because I didn't have any swelling in my back. I did not hurt.
I just want to share that with everybody that has MS or other demyelinating illnesses, autoimmune diseases, because I really think that it's a product that can help a lot of people.
I started drinking the juice, and within 2 weeks, my mind was clearer than it had ever been before. The fog was gone.
Consumer Labs even tested it and gave it their seal of approval and passed it, stating that it's okay for elite athletes and pro athletes and Olympic athletes to take without having any worries of having anything going on with the doping establishments.
I had a remarkable turnaround. At that point, I felt like I was just about to die.
If a person were to drink the juice that contained the whole fruit and all of the rind in it, then that person might find some good effects in terms of reducing inflammation in the nervous system. And what conditions might be benefited? Well, let's start with migraine headache. Let's also add ADD and ADHD. Autism spectrum disorder. Is ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. Both of these conditions are thought to be associated with a certain degree of inflammation in the nervous system, as well as in the intestinal tract, as a matter of fact. And this helps on that level too.
With the mangosteen fruit, my reflux is under control. I don't take any medication for it, and I even, there for a while, eating a tangerine every day. No problems, no problems whatsoever. And one of the other things that I think my family enjoys the most is, because I'm a nurse, I was undiagnosed hypoglycemic, which means if I didn't eat, I got really shaky and just irritated and angry. I don't do that anymore. And I realized I still know when it's time to eat, I still know that I'm hungry, but I don't get the shakes and I don't get nervous and I don't get crazy. And that's exciting, and I didn't realize that for a couple months as well. So it's been a slow process, but My big deal is that I was excited that it's helped me. My goal is prevention, and just being able to see my dad be out of pain and my mom out of pain has been phenomenal for me. So I'm excited to be a part of knowing about this fruit.
About a year and a half ago, I started drinking the mangosteen juice for my acid reflux. I work in a paper mill, working swing shifts, and when I was working nights, about 2 o'clock in the morning, I could feel the burning sensation coming up in my throat, and I would be bending over doing things, and I was very, very miserable. And I talked to some friends and relation that had started on this mangosteen juice, and they said, well, try it, it's helped me. So I decided I would try it, and after about 2 weeks, all the symptoms that I had in the middle of the night were completely gone, no matter what kind of food I ate, if it was spicy food or just anything that would aggravate it. And I was telling all the people at work, this really works. I couldn't believe it, and I had quite a few people that tried it themselves, and the same thing helped. It helped all them too, so they were real excited about it.
I have been taking mangosteen juice for probably a year and a half, and my husband and I have been in the restaurant business for like 32 years, and you know, from not eating right and eating all that greasy French fries and all that, I got acid reflux, and so we started doing the mangosteen business. I started taking that, and my acid reflux just went away, and I couldn't hardly believe it, and I'm just so thankful that it has. And so after taking it for probably about maybe say a year, I knew I had high cholesterol, and I went to the doctor, and after taking the juice 3 times a day, my cholesterol went down about 42 points, and so I was really thankful for that.
A few months ago, 2 months ago, it was back at the beginning of August, Renee was telling us about this fruit at work, that what it had done for her son. And Chase, I'd told her that Chase was ADHD, my son, and we'd been on 15 to 20 different kinds of ADHD medicines, psychiatrist. It was a mess. We were getting all kinds of violent outbursts, and to where the medicines were just killing them, basically.
Weren't getting the desired effect.
So I heard Renee talking about this, the mangosteen fruit, and she gave me, or had got me where I could get a bottle or two, and we tried it. And my mother-in-law decided that within a few days we seen a difference in Chase, just his level from the hyper that was way up here come down, you know, and there was a big difference in a few days. So she went and ordered a ton of it. And so my husband started taking it, and he was on different antidepressants, off and on different things, you know, and so he had started on it. And well, since he's been on it, well, he ain't been on any antidepressants at all.
About 2 years ago, a friend of mine recommended us to Dr. Teresa Bernard. Our son Michael had been sick for many years with migraines, allergy, asthma. They had put him on about 6 different prescription drugs, inhalers, allergy medicine, ADHD medicine. He had pain medicine in every vehicle. He had to have it at his school, at his daycare, because when Michael would get one of his headaches, it would knock him out. He would get migraines probably about every couple of days, and he would get cluster headaches daily. And our life literally evolved around Michael's headaches, because, you know, we couldn't do anything. If he got a headache, he was out. So we had took him to Dr. Bernard. She had prescribed him the whole fruit mangosteen along with other vitamins and water and herbs. And within 2 weeks, Michael was no longer taking any prescription drugs. It's been 16 months now he's been on no prescription drugs, and he is just doing wonderful. And it's such a blessing, because we were so concerned about us trying to help him. And through that process, our lives used to evolve around his headaches, and now it's wonderful that we can just live. We don't have to worry about that anymore. We can take trips, plan anything, and just know that Michael's going to be wonderfully healthy. He used to miss an average of 1 day a week at school. He no longer has to miss school. He hasn't had to go to the doctor now but one time in the last year and a half, where he used to be at the doctor about every 2 months. So it's just been wonderful. We know that we're no longer putting the drugs in his system that in his future may have other side effects that could cause him other problems. So we're just teaching him now about prevention and health, and he's just doing wonderful. So we're just very grateful to God for the whole fruit mangosteen.
For myself personally, I didn't realize that, I don't know if it's the humidity in Florida or what, but when I came down here, I started just taking tremendous amount of sinus medication, and I know there's a lot of other experiences people's had worse than that, but they were almost like migraine headaches and stuff to us. And I had medication everywhere I could hide it, in the car, in the travel bags, in my briefcase, in the bathroom. I never go without it. And if you've taken much of the medication, you almost get drowsy after a while, and you're tired and sleepy. And a friend called us and was telling us all about some of the different benefits and things that he heard about this wonderful product, this mangosteen juice, and the whole fruit in this beverage. And so I tried it, and didn't even think much about it, but wasn't taking any medication. And again, your lifestyles are so active and you're so busy that I didn't notice it till one weekend we were out of the juice, and then I started getting these severe headaches again. And I thought, I haven't been taking any sinus medication. So I, first of all, ran to my sister-in-law's house and got some medication, got some juice in money, drank about a half a bottle. And so that's been over 2 years ago. So I know a lot of people are affected by sinus, even children and different things like that. It's not one of your major illnesses or something, but I'll tell you what, the headaches are miserable to have. And it's nice to drink the juice instead of taking the pills.
I started taking mangosteen juice about 6 months ago. And before that, I had chronic sinus problems that about every other month would come up, where I was tired for a week, and I would have a very hard time to stay awake during the day, and constant runny nose and coughing attacks. I do a lot of phone type work, and I was having problems actually being on conference calls and whatnot with dry throat, so to speak. And then in the following week, I have the exact opposite symptoms with the sinuses, where I would have lack of sleep and anxiety attacks, where I couldn't, just very hyper, so to speak, because the inflammation in my sinuses would create all these weird effects. This would happen every other month, probably for about the last 10 years. And I have tried multiple prescription type drugs, and I had very little effect other than a lot of drowsiness, and sometimes it would help a little bit with the sinus flowage type thing, but very little, nothing that really prevented it in any way. And right away, after about the first 2 weeks, I noticed that the symptoms that normally would occur during that month, because that was the normal time, it doesn't always come every other month, but it's around that time that it seemed like things were being relieved. And so for the next 2 months, I had no effects of the sinuses attacking me in any way. And I do once in a while get a little bit of the sinus issues, but I don't have the anxiety anymore. I don't have the tiredness. I don't go through the 2-week period at all, actually. And it's been amazing, the results that's been relieved with that relief of just daily functions. And it's been a great thing.
About a year ago, my husband Mike was introduced to mangosteen, and at the time my shoulder was bothering me. I had rotator cuff problems, and if he so much as even put his arm over the top of me in bed, it would feel like it was going to fall out of the socket. So I decided that I would go ahead and start taking the mangosteen juice as well. And at that time I couldn't even raise my arm up above my head, and after about a month of taking the mangosteen juice, it completely disappeared. I had even had a steroid shot from the doctor, which didn't affect it at all. But the mangosteen juice took care of it. And I haven't had any pain in the last year.
For the longest time I had issues with gout, very bad inflammation, very painful. And I was on different medications such as indomethacin and so many other things that had real major side effects. And I was introduced to mangosteen juice. I started using mangosteen juice 3 times a day. And after a period of about a week to even about a month or so, and the last 2 years, I've been gout-free. I haven't had any inflammation in my feet, ankles, or my knees, which at the time it costed me a lot of sick days from work, which basically paid for the product itself. And also I feel a little more vitalized. I feel more confident in myself. I don't know if it's a coincidence, but it seems to be a lot more after taking the mangosteen juice. I was kind of skeptical of it at first with the one that I was introduced to. I actually tried one of the ones that they had in the store, and it started to come back again because they didn't use the whole fruit like the kind that I had does. I only use the kind that contains the whole fruit. And even with the indomethacin, I could still feel that the gout was there. It hurt to get into a steel-toe shoe because I work at a paper mill and with rolls and eat steel-toe shoes. And there were some times where it was inflamed so much I could not even get my foot into a shoe, much less basically have to call in and be off medical leave, which cost me a lot of money. And my doctor was going to put me on a much stronger drug. I forgot the name of it. But as we go with drugs come side effects, the side effects would have damaged my kidneys and possible to my liver. And that was then I decided, especially after my mom, who used to be taking Celebrex and Vioxx, which was pulled off the market because of a lot of the deadly side effects, I did not want to be another one of those statistics, and neither did my mom. And we looked around, and a friend of mine had told me about mangosteen juice, and since using that, my mom has also been off of any of the anti-inflammatories, and I myself did not need any of the drugs, and I cannot even remember what that gout felt like. It was so terrible that even just brushing my feet along the sheets, I was in screaming pain. I have no more of that, and I am happy.
In 2004, about March or April 2004, I slipped on some stairs at work, where I work, and I tore my medial meniscus. And I was reluctant to turn it in, so I limped around for about 12 weeks on it. And finally, it was about October of that year, I had gone through to the point where all I had to do was pick a doctor in a time I was going to have orthoscopic surgery done on my knee. And it was at that time my son called me up and he says, "Hey Dad, I want you to try this." And I thought, well, all right, I will. So I gave this juice, this mangosteen juice, a try. And I can't recall exactly how long it took, but it seemed like one day all of a sudden the swelling was gone out of my knee. I had not had the operation yet because hadn't come that time. And all the swelling was gone. There was no pain. I also noticed that my shoulder didn't hurt because I'd had orthoscopic surgery done on that in 2002. And my back quit hurting, which I had back surgery on my L4, L5. It was called a lumbar laminectomy. And they removed some problems back there for me. And I was at that time taking approximately 4 to 6, sometimes more Excedrins every day because I hurt all the time. And it kind of got me through the day. And when I started taking the mangosteen juice, and it's just like all of a sudden I realized that my knee didn't hurt. I had a lot more movement in my back. My shoulder quit hurting, and I wasn't taking any of the like Excedrins or ibuprofen or anything like that. I quit taking them. I took very few of them. And over the last few years that we've been in taking the juice, it's got to the point where I just feel good. I just turned 60 on June 16th of this year, 2007, and I feel like I'm in, well, I guess my level of being, I feel like I'm in my mid-30s. I just feel great. And I do know that had I not had this, had my son not gave me this opportunity with this mangosteen juice, I know what my next stage would have been. I'd have been with surgery and would have had to gone through the using the things like Vicodin and whatever else they had available for pain. I'm very thankful that I have got this now.
After the car wreck, I ended up having cervical fusion. And the result of the surgery, everything went fine, and the doc was very pleased with everything, and they sent me off on my way. And within a year, I started having severe pain in my neck and my upper body. And so I started taking Advil and started living on Advil. It was the only thing that I could get to bed at night with, and when I get up in the morning, I'd take an Advil. I just always was in pain. And instead of turning my neck, I always turned my whole body. And I didn't turn my neck. I was stiff like a board. And so the result of that and drinking or eating Advil or ibuprofen, my kidneys started to give me problems. And I had a lot of pain with my kidneys. I started drinking cranberry juice. I started drinking water, doing everything that I thought was right to help alleviate the issues with my kidneys. And I got to a point where I just needed something, and I was looking, and I would have tried anything. So I started drinking it, and the first month I was on a 1 case. So I was drinking it about 3 times a day, about a shot glass each time, and didn't really see any results for the first month. And after about a month and a half, I started kind of asking Mike, saying, hey, I don't know if this stuff is going to work, and I was very skeptical anyway. And so we did a little research and decided that maybe I just needed to try a little bit more. And so I went on a 2-case shipment and started drinking double, about 6 ounces a day. Within a week after doing that, I noticed an immediate difference in my neck. My kidney pain was totally gone already from drinking the first month from drinking. And the second month, the swelling started leaving my body. And as soon as that happened, I was able to start moving my neck freely without any pain, which I can do today without absolutely any pain at all. At night, before I used to go to bed, I'd sit and lay with about 10, 15 pillows in my bed, trying to position my body in just the right place so that I could go to sleep. I'm down to being normal, and being a normal person to me means being able to just go to bed and go to sleep whenever I want. I don't have to worry about any pain. It's incredible. Some of the things that I didn't even expect from drinking the juice. I also had some lower intestinal issues, and that is gone. That's cleared up. I've had pain in my knees from working in a factory for 22 years, walking on concrete floors. The swelling in my knees is gone. I have no pain in my knees, which makes me feel good again, which makes me want to go out and exercise. So I can go out and walk without any pain. I've always been conscious of my diet, and I always eat right, and I eat good food. But because I didn't have the exercise part in there, I started gaining weight. And so now I'm very much more active, and I'm losing weight again and just starting to feel like a person again. The first thing I noticed when I started drinking it was my pain in my feet started to disappear. I had severe aching all the time in my feet from probably walking on concrete floors for 22 years in a factory, and that was gone. It cleared it up and was gone almost immediately. I know that was a huge difference for me, and that was enough to say, hey, there's really something here. You need to keep drinking this. And so I kept going, even though I was skeptical. I kept drinking it, and I've seen just amazing results by drinking mangosteen.
Yes, my big toe, it'd flare up, but when it'd flare up, there was no walking, there was no nothing. I don't have flare-ups. I don't even, in between the flare-ups, it was still painful. There was still pain there every day. That's gone. And I've not had a flare-up and not had anything. And like I say, my hands, tendonitis, all eat up. Broken shoulders, I've broken both my shoulders, broken ribs, broken hands. pretty hard on myself as a kid. And like I say, it is a miracle. There's no doubt about it. Because before that, I was a miserable person. And the more pain you feel during your day, and you go through work all day, you deal with that pain plus getting tired, quite an irritable person when you come home. Now I come home, things seem
Pleasure to be around them.
Yes, things seem to be a whole lot better. I mean, it helps with your mentality. Like I say, those antidepressant drugs just make you more depressed. And they cure this, so to speak, cure this problem, but they make this problem. And this stuff to this point has no problem.
I was in a car accident in March, and I was hit almost head on, but it caused 2 herniated discs in my lower L4 and L5, and then the S1, I think I'm saying it right, and an annular tear down there. So I cut hair, so I'm standing 8 hours a day, and I wasn't able to do that 8 hours. I was in a pain. Everything I did, I was in pain. But I noticed about 3 weeks after being on the mangosteen fruit, I just realized I wasn't hurting. I was driving in my car and I wasn't hurting. And I started realizing I was waking up, getting out of bed, and man, I'm not hurting, you know. And I'd say something, this past week, we kind of messed up on our shipment and didn't have any.
Yes.
And
it's been a rough week.
It has been a rough week. My husband said last night, he said, okay, we got our shipment in, everybody can get on the regular dose, everything's going to be fine now.
No, I said, everybody drink the juice and tomorrow we'll regroup.
But it was...
you can definitely, once you get on this, you won't notice it yourself at first. You know, it's a gradual shift. And then all of a sudden you're going to be sitting there one day and somebody that you've been around, they're going to be looking at you, and you're not the same person you were 2 weeks ago. I didn't like you 2 weeks ago.
And then it's happened. And he's got people calling him that would never have been around him before. I was a miserable person. I didn't want to be around people, because my attitude showed it, the pain I was in.
I got on the product. I use it for, for a year and a half now, and I had this gout, which is very, very painful. I had it in my one toe, next toe, whatever. But since I've been using this mangosteen product, I've never had one flare-up yet. It's been just a blessing. The other problem I had was arthritis in my left shoulder, which it does kick up if I don't take my mangosteen product here, but I take it daily, so I never have a problem with that. It's just been wonderful. And the only thing I did have also that I know of, I had a bad foot on the bottom, which I always forgot about because it goes away. You just kind of forget you had that problem. But that's a blessing also that I don't have that problem anymore. The other thing I would like to say is I've seen so many people that this product has helped. It would be nice if you could just sit and tell their story. But I think if people just get involved, would just give it a try, it's really, really worthwhile.
After I had that done, I came back and I started drinking the mangosteen juice. With my arthritis, if I sat for more than 15 or 20 minutes and I went to get up, I couldn't walk. I try and I would just be shuffling my feet, and there was a lot of pain in my hips and my knees. And after I had been on the mangosteen juice, I would say a week, I could tell a difference. I could move better. The aching wasn't there. Even when I slept at night, I would usually be awakened by pain. And after a month, I didn't even do that. I'm a little stubborn though. You know how that goes. And so every once in a while I'd get started on something else, and I wouldn't take the juice for maybe a day or two. Wouldn't drink it. And guess what? I went right back to the same old symptoms, right back to the same old problems. So I think I've learned my lesson now.
Along the way, my daughter's been in the nursing business for several years, and she became acquainted with this fruit, and I wasn't much interested until later on, but over time my fingers and elbows were always having very difficult movement, and it'd freeze up, and I said, well, boy, I got to work this out. So she introduced, in fact, she persuaded me somewhat. And that was a great part. I really appreciate it now because it really helps an awful lot. I have not nearly the pain that I once did, so I'm getting on better. I'm only 71 years old, so I didn't do bad. I've drank probably an ounce or so, just turn up the bottle now, but back then I was really issuing it out because they said don't take too much because it won't do you any good, so why not just take the right amount, which I did. And it helped me get over some of my sinus problems. I can breathe a lot better, and it's helped me all the way through, I think. There for a while I was getting up pretty regular on the bathroom detail, and I've got down where I can sleep a little longer, and it feels so much better. I get up in the morning with a clear head. That's awful. You do that after drinking out here. Yes, sir. Now, of course, joint issue, and of course, I milked cows over my life, and they've been kicked several times, as you can imagine, and more the knuckles swell up, and of course, you have to go back and milk some more, but they've really gotten a lot better. I've really got to where I can get around good. Knees never did give me much problem, but my shoulder and my elbows, but other than that, I think I'm doing good. I think I feel better for sure. Mangosteen was the wonderful drink that I have discovered was wonderful for my whole system. I've felt better. I think it's easier on all pain, and I can do more. I believe it's been real good, and I hope everyone gets a chance to try it if they can get it. It's wonderful.
I had friends that have taken the whole fruit mangosteen juice, and they noticed results right away. Well, I was involved in 3 car wrecks, the first one when I was 16, the last one when I was in my 50s. So that was a long time. Basically, the last car wreck I had, they just told me to learn to live with pain because they had tried a men's machine. I was on a TENS machine. They had men's
We
traction.
tried all kind of different things. Even a good friend of ours, a doctor, you know, she wanted to do this last thing where they put a needle in your spine.
Well, he said the only other thing they could do
that.
was a series of cortisone injections down my spine. And he said he couldn't figure why, I hate shots, so he couldn't figure out why I wouldn't try that. And when I took him to the doctor with me, and the doctor told him that they could paralyze me, that's
so
when
we're not going to do that.
That was
we're not
when
going to do that. So you're going to have to live with it. So at night, you know, all these other things she would do to try to relax the muscles, and taking muscle relaxers and every kind of medication things, and I would even massage it because you'd get muscle spasms like that in the back.
And it just takes your breath away.
But now go ahead. I don't want to keep telling your story.
But you are.
Go ahead. Help yourself.
But you know, the spasms, people don't realize, you know, you can learn to live with pain. When there's nothing else they can give you or do for you, you learn to live with pain. Do you get up every day and just say, I'm going to get through the day, and you just do it psychologically, you just block out that pain. But sure, you have it every single minute of the day. And when we started on the juice, I had other friends, and him, it helped right away. I kept saying, why is it helping everybody but not helping me? So I started taking more juice. And when we got started, we didn't know how much to take or when to take it or how to take it with food, without food.
Everybody's body's different. You just got to give it a long enough time to see.
And so I just started drinking more of the juice. And one day I was sitting on my sister's porch, and I said, I can't remember the last time I had to go to bed with a backache. It was just amazing that it came on so gradually. I just didn't wake up one morning and say, whoa, my back doesn't hurt anymore. It was just a gradual thing. Am I going to still probably have some degree of pain all my life? Probably. Can I go work in my yard now? Yes. I could never do that. I couldn't bend down and pick a weed without spasms going up my back so bad I had to go to bed. So until you live with that, you just don't realize
And everybody's a little
what
bit
it's
different.
like.
We've got other people we've introduced you to it. I've got some people that
You can't give testimonies.
that work different types of jobs, and in a matter of a couple days, they've seen results. And but it took.
But it took a long
for
time
her.
for me. Would the average person stay on it that long? No. They think they can get a bottle of juice and they can take it for a day, and 40 years of pain is going to go away. Well, it's not. You know, be conscientious enough and want to help yourself enough that you know that you need to stay on it for a while. You know, at least give it a 90-day trial. So really, after, you know, living with pain for 40 years, you can't expect to drink the juice for a day and you wake up and think it's all going to be gone. It doesn't work that way.
That's why a lot of times, you know, we tell people, you know, we started out by telling some other people about this wonderful product, and told them that don't expect one bottle to miracles. You might have better sleeping patterns like we did, more energy. You obviously know how wonderful this phenomenal product tastes, but the thing is, everybody's body's different. Give it a chance.
But you know what?
Give it a fair
God's given us something we need to share. He truly has. I mean, He's changed our life.
You know, it's like Cindy said, you know, we're so excited about it, what it's done for us, what it's done for our back, what it's done for our sinus, so we sleep
Our
better.
children.
Our children, the grandchildren, then get sick. And then now you mention to somebody and they'll mention to you, does it cost too much? And, you know, I don't know if those people are brain dead or what. I mean, the same person will go to Starbucks and spend $5 for a cup of coffee, or is it too expensive once you're in a hospital when you pay that? If you could avoid some of that through an all-natural product,
But what's your health
wonderful.
worth?
What's your health
What's
worth?
your health worth
you
to
know,
you?
And there's no cost factor here. I mean, that's just silly.
None. What
None of that.
I would have paid anything
Any
to keep
amount of
my
money.
dog alive for 2 more years.
Yeah. So.
I would pay anything to see my grandchildren stay healthy.
Yeah.
So
and
what's
they
it
don't come home
worth?
with the sniffles, and they hang around daycares, you know, and these other kids are sick. These aren't. So it's something magical about, you know, and there's a lot of imitators. There's a lot of different people out there, but you know, when you get the whole entire mangosteen fruit puree, there's only one, and it's phenomenal, and I would highly recommend it. And as far as cost, that's not even a barrier here.
Why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you drink it? It's crazy. Crazy not to.
6 years ago, I was injured in my back, and when I had that, I had 3 operations, 3 surgeries already, and I'm not working right now. And I gained weight, and my diabetic, they was high cholesterol, because I can even make exercise. Then my doctor, they give me pills and pills. My kidneys is so bad. They was so bad. And I'm still drinking the juice because they help me a lot for my back. Sometimes I have a lot of pain, and I have to take my pill, pain pills. But mangosteen is work much better. I don't worry about it, but I'm still drinking. But my back, I have the 2 surgeries, but it's good for my back. Even for my diabetic, for lower cholesterol, and I love the mangosteen fruit. And that's it. My family drink and my wife, and I recommend it for many people.
Well, with cancer patients, the reason we see such dramatic results when they drink this whole fruit mangosteen juice is that this juice has the ability to promote apoptosis. Now, apoptosis is I think of it as the whole process of the orderly growth, maturity, and death of cells. If healthy cells, did not die, then there'd be new cells would come to replace them, but they would wind up being just overpowered by these cells that had lost their ability to die. So the cancer cell is just that. It's a cell that has lost its ability to die. It's the cell that's going to live forever, and it will parasitize everything around it. So it's going to grow and metastasize and eventually kill off the organism. So isn't it amazing that the active components in this whole fruit, mangosteen, can induce apoptosis? And they do it very dramatically.
I wasn't given very long to live because I could feel it. I was going downhill rapidly, and with the blood count that I had, I couldn't fight off any infections whatsoever, and the pneumonia about did me in. I was introduced to mangosteen juice, and we felt that by taking a gallon of distilled water a day and a full bottle of mangosteen juice a day for 30 days. Mind you now, my blood count was a 0.9, which normal is 4 and above to 7. 0.9 is not good. During this month I was taking it, the first week I noticed a very large improvement on my vim and my vigor and more strength in my body building up. I did have a problem. My bladder didn't work right. I had to wear pads. I was an old man. Had to wear pads. And my first week, I noticed that my bladder was working. I kept taking mangosteen, and I was building up more and more strength. And within 2 weeks, I could have danced a jig. I was really strong. I continued it for 1 full month. And to the surprise of the doctors and the lab technicians, my white count was up to a 7.5, which meant I purged all that poison out of the long bones. The long bones, you know, is what makes your white count. I learned that in my nursing at the age of 50. The long bones makes your white count. Mangosteen juice purged this out of my system, and I became healthy again. We cut it down to a half a bottle a day for the following month. Now this is 6 months ago. I was a goner. I wasn't going to be here any longer. Mangosteen has made me what I am now. I still have a voice. It's coming back better. I do have some problems with my limbs, my fingers, my digits, but that's all coming back. And I do get around a lot better. I drove down here, Mike. I drove all the way to Cleveland, and I have no problems. Mangosteen juice. I blame it onto that. It made me a healthy man again.
I was diagnosed with promyelocytic leukemia in July of 2006. The diagnosis for it was discovered in a roundabout way through difficulties with my appendix. The treatment for leukemia was 4 rounds of 2 different types of chemotherapy. plus also probably 1 to 5 different types of antibiotics that I had to take at various times. For my first 3 treatments, I was not on mangosteen, and each treatment that I had, I went into a condition called being neutropenic, where your immune system is so weakened that you need to be supported with antibiotics to keep you alive, to make sure it kills off all the germs and bugs that normally exist right within your own body. Taking the mangosteen, I never dropped below 650, so I mean, that's an amazing thing to me, especially when the doctors know when they give you this, one of the 2 types of chemotherapy that I took, or had to take, is designed to kill your immune system, go in and kill out your bone marrow, so you have no immune system, basically, and that never happened. The mangosteen held it up there, and I didn't have to go through that stage of treatment.
I started drinking the mangosteen juice in December of 2004 because I had some arthritis in my thumbs. And I was told by a friend of mine that got me started that maybe would help. So I thought, I'll try it. Had no idea I had cancer. So it did help the arthritis. Within a couple weeks, I had no arthritis in my thumbs. So in March of 2005, I went in for a routine colonoscopy, and 8 days later I came out and I had rectal cancer, and it had broke the wall. They knew I was taking the mangosteen juice and said, that's fine. There was no problem with me taking the mangosteen juice. So the mangosteen juice helped me tremendously when I was going through chemo. Not only did I feel it helped to shrink the nodules that I had, but it helped with my energy. I just think I would have had a really tough time getting through all the chemo had I not have been taking the juice, because it really did help my energy. There's no doubt in my mind that the mangosteen juice helped me in the last 2.5 years to get through the cancer, and to get through it as well as I have. I have people who say to me, you don't look like you ever been sick in a day. In fact, when I went to the Mayo Clinic, they said, we're astounded how well you look. All my blood stats are perfect. My blood work is perfect. And they said, if we didn't know how much you'd been through, we'd think you were the healthiest person coming through here. And that's exactly what the doctor told me up there.
Well, I was introduced to the mangosteen, or Kent and I were introduced to the mangosteen juice. I had already been diagnosed with breast cancer, had a mastectomy, had gone through chemotherapy and radiation treatments already for it. And we were just looking at anything we could do to prevent the cancer from returning, because it was a pretty aggressive breast cancer when it was discovered. And so we were introduced to the mangosteen juice, and we thought, well, it sounded like it had some really good benefits with cancer, and so thought, let's try it. Anything we can do to help prevent it from happening again. So we started taking it. It was several months after I was completed with my radiation treatments. And the first thing that I noticed when I started taking the mangosteen juice is just my energy level had increased so much. I never realized how tired I was when I was going through the chemotherapy and the radiation until after it was over, and then I started taking the mangosteen juice, and I just couldn't believe my energy level. In fact, the first day that I took it, I was up until midnight rearranging furniture and just had all kinds of energy. So that was the first thing that I really noticed with it. I continued taking it, and there were other things that I noticed. I didn't notice till, down the road some of the benefits that I had from it. one of the side effects I had from taking the chemotherapy medication was some numbness in my fingers and my toes that just was persistent. It didn't go away. And several months after starting the mangosteen juice, I noticed that it was gone. You know, I hadn't noticed it going away, but all of a sudden I realized it was gone. So that was really, a benefit that we weren't expecting. Well, I am a registered nurse. I work in a neonatal intensive care unit, so it's a pretty stressful job. Another thing that I've had problems with over the years is a lot of reflux. I've been on medication for reflux for quite a number of years. And another one of the benefits that I noticed from taking this, and again, it was a few months at least after I started taking it, that the reflux was gone. I was able to stop taking my medication, and before, if I would stop taking it for a few days, the reflux was back just terrible. But I was able to stop taking the medication for the reflux, and it didn't come back. And it really hasn't come back, all this time, that I've been taking the mangosteen juice. When I've stopped taking it at other times too, I've noticed I've just gotten a lot more. My family would say I'm depressed. I don't handle things nearly as well as I did, when I'm taking it. So they definitely are pushing me always to take it, and I always want to take it because I just feel so much better when I'm taking it. My two girls, they love drinking the juice. They've started to learn all the benefits of it, and if they are starting to get sick, starting to get a cold, the first thing they go to is a drink of the juice. They know that that's going to help if they have really anything, any kind of illness. Well, as a registered nurse, I have really become very passionate about the mangosteen juice and the benefits that it has for so many people. And the fact that the mangosteen juice has the whole fruit, it's the whole fruit that really has all the benefits that you need for all those different things that people take it for. And so I really, really am passionate about people knowing about this, learning about it, and taking it themselves. There's a mountain of scientific evidence that really proves the benefits of the mangosteen juice and the botanicals in the fight against cancer. And as a woman, I am very passionate about making sure people know about this and take it to prevent themselves having to go through what I had to go through. Cancer is a devastating disease for anyone, and if we can prevent this from happening, that would be a wonderful thing. We can prevent people from going through what I had to go through.
The cancer doctor told me on March 22nd, he said, you got probably 4 months without treatment, and maybe we can stretch it to 8 months with. Well, the reason I think I'm here after the doctor told me I had 4 months left is because of the mangosteen juice. And thanks to my cousin who initially got me started, and Tony Shevchik, that's the reason I'm here, I think. Well, while I was in intensive care in Green Bay right after I first diagnosed, a cousin of mine walked in the hospital room after I got intensive care with a bottle of juice. And I said, "What's this?" And he said, "Well, you drink this 4 ounces at a time." Well, that was Sunday I went in, and I come back out on Friday, and on Saturday he had sent his kid up to the house with a case of 4 bottles. And he wouldn't take any money for it. And I called him and I said, "What do I do at 4 bottles?" He said, "You drink a bottle a day for 21 days and drink a bottle of distilled water, a gallon of distilled water with it." Well, the juice was fine, but that gallon of water, that was really tough. Right now I'm on the 135th day at 12 ounces after I quit a bottle a day. And Gary called me once and said, Mike, when he does that first CAT scan, I'd like to be there to see the look on his face when there's no tumors. And well, there was some tumors left, but they're regressing and they're shrinking. And before that, when guys would ask me where you got it, and I'd say the pancreas and the liver, they'd say, well, it's been nice knowing you, you know, because my mother died at 44 with it, and my brother died about 3 years ago. He was 66, and he lasted 10 months with it. And some of the side effects, you know, you see these ads for drugs all the time, and sometimes the side effects are worse than what you're trying to get rid of. Like, you got to get your liver checked. Well, some of the side effects of mine, I used to be on Advair. I don't use Advair anymore. And I didn't have a lot of hair to lose to start with, but I didn't lose what I had. And I was never sick. And Tony had me on a three-way phone conversation with a gal from California, and she said, well, you know, there's a good chance that juice kept you from getting sick or nauseous, and also it kept your hair, the little you do have. So, no, it's, I've talked to a lot of people since then, and I think because what I had was kind of serious, and they see me biking around town and I'm golfing and stuff, I think it's a lot easier for me to make them believe what I think is what made this happen, you know. There's a lot of people praying for me, I know, from California to the East Coast, which I didn't realize was going to happen. And I got 4 daughters and a daughter-in-law that's an RN. I got a heck of a support group. And I got a good cancer doctor. But the juice is, I'm going to keep drinking the juice. And like this gal from California that Tony had me on the phone with, once you start, you know, even if it's only a couple ounces a day, don't ever stop. Because there's people that have stopped, and there's a good chance it'll come back, you know. In fact, it probably has. But no, if anybody ever wants to call me and talk to me about it, I'll be glad to talk to them. That's the reason I'm here, I think. The doctors tell me the tumors are shrinking and they're diminishing. They're still visible, but that's why I think he's kind of anxious to see the next CAT scan in about 3 weeks, too. My daughter-in-law, that's the nurse, the RN, would come in every Monday. I get a blood test every Monday. And she just comes along because he wanted one member of the family so everybody didn't call him. And about 2 months into this, doing the mangosteen and the treatments, she says, I think you've got the doctor puzzled because of your color, and I'm gaining weight back that I lost, which is supposed to be a good sign, I guess, if you got cancer. And she said, but I'll believe the mangosteen when I see it. Well, after she saw the CAT scan, that night we get home, and I would have been taking 3 ounces 3 times a day. She says, Mike, I think you should go to 12 ounces.
We just put our little poodle to sleep. She was 13 years old.
We got 2 extra years at least on it.
And a couple years ago, we took her to the vet, and she had a tumor, and he told me that she had breast cancer. We had just come back from a trip, and we looked down, and she had a cyst around one of her nipples that was the size of a silver dollar. And the vet basically told me, you knew it was coming, it's time to put her down. Well,
it just kept getting bigger.
It was just hard to do that. I mean, she still played, she still did everything. We come back from a trip one day, and my sister was watching her, and she wouldn't eat. So I said, well, maybe it is time to put her down. So she went, we slept with her that night. She jumped off our bed in the middle of the night, crawled up under the bed, and I said, well, they say dogs go off to die, so I'm just going to leave her alone. And I woke up the next morning, and out she comes trotting from under the bed. She had taken the cyst that the doctor wouldn't lance because he said there was nothing to do. She broke it open, but you could see muscles in
honest thing. We took the mangosteen juice
and put it right on there.
Put it on a gauze, and within a week, that was healed.
It's healing up.
I mean, she lasted 2 years after that. The vet was just amazed. He said she was like an Energizer bunny, because until 2 days before we had to put her to sleep, she was
still
playing.
Active,
She ate. She played.
Like we started adding it to her.
She was
the
normal little dog.
And she'd eat it. And I mean, after even 13 years is a long time for a pet. But the last 2 years, to go through this, and her activity level didn't change.
A couple of colleagues around the nation that are currently using mangosteen juice. Very, very exciting to see the responses they're getting with its use. Been getting to incorporate that here at my clinic, starting to see some really exciting results. I have a 6-year-old dog diagnosed with multiple myeloma, evolved around the thoracic spine. The dog had been seen by oncologists at a university, diagnosed as this was an inoperable tumor. They had placed this dog on chemotherapy and had initially done very well, but 2 months down the road, this dog started having adverse reactions to the chemo agent. At that time, made the decision to take the dog off the chemotherapeutic and discussed with the owner the option of putting on mangosteen juice. Within 2 weeks, this dog had gone from very lethargic, anorexic, to eating normally and actually back to playing frisbee with the owner. A remarkable turnaround in 2 weeks. I can hear it now, people thinking, this is a placebo effect, but really with animals, you're not going to hear Fido going, "Oh boy, here's Dr. Odell with some mangosteen juice. I'm going to be better." Dogs just generally don't have that kind of deductive reasoning. Try it. I think being a naturopathic, the phytonutrients in this thing, it's just all natural. It's not like a chemo drug. It's not like a steroid. It's not something that you're going to have very adverse effects with, but it's all natural, and that's what's really exciting about it.
Actually, Renee was in tears one day when she came to me. She says, "I just know that we have something that will help you, and I want you to try it." I said, "Well, I really want to know if it's honestly going to make any difference and not just, give me a little energy or something like that." So before I started drinking the mangosteen juice, I went to my doctor and I got blood work done. They had also done a carotid artery. I had a carotid artery, and they had done a test on that, and it was 58 or 59% blocked, almost at the point where they were going to have to do something. After I had been on the juice for almost 3 months, they called me because of the amount of blockage before. They wanted me to go and have another one so that they could tell, okay, is it getting worse and I'm going to have to do anything about it. When she called me about the results of that, the blockage was down to less than 35%. And my doctor said to me, "Well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it." So my blood work came back almost perfect all the way through. So I felt like that was a sign, that was something telling me that it was working.
About 7-8 months ago, when I was introduced to mangosteen, the doctors told me that my life would be miserable. They couldn't do nothing to help me anymore. About 2 years ago, I found out I had serious degeneration of the discs in my spine from the lower lumbar up. And I've always had a problem with the arthritic condition in my neck. In fact, for the last 6 or 7 years, I've not been able to move my neck, turn it to look behind me when I'm on a riding mower or anything, and without real severe pain. Plus the fact it just wouldn't want to turn. It would snap, crack, and pop just like Rice Krispies. And now, look, no snap, pop, crack, no pain at all, no discomfort. By next year, in 2008 or 2009 at the latest, I'd probably be in an assisted living and probably be in bed. And they didn't see anything that could change that. I was taking several medications at that time, both for my heart, cholesterol, blood pressure, everything in that, because my mitral valves and other parts of my heart are not, they're at the point where they're awful close to having to be replaced. And the I have still some blockage in my carotid on the right side, and other areas in my system that will probably need some attention. And all of that put together was just not a good deal. So now, again, here I am. I threw all my medications away about 2 months ago. The only thing I take now is baby aspirin for my blood thinner. Beyond that, I take no medicine at all, and I'm just feeling better than I've felt probably in 6 years. Definitely better than I felt 2 and 3 years ago, and 100% better than I was 7, 8 months ago.
Found out just going through the doctors that I had a bulging disc with a deteriorating disc disease, and you know, started out doing the chiropractor, then went to the physical therapy, and those things helped a little bit, but no major relief. Then started going to the pain management and doing, you know, the regular pain medications, the Vicaprofen, and was doing epidurals about every 3 to 4 months. And you know, just through my wife and my son going to Dr. Teresa Bernard, we were prescribed the whole fruit mangosteen. Started drinking that, and within 2 weeks, I was getting out of bed with no stiffness, no back pain. It just alleviated several other conditions that I had, some allergy problems. Of course, my energy level was, you know, through the roof again. And I'm back in the gym, working out regularly, doing squats, and experiencing no back pain at all. My recovery time for my muscles is great, and we're just very thankful, very blessed to have been introduced to the whole fruit mangosteen.
Yeah. My husband first started drinking mangosteen juice. He has multiple sclerosis, and you know, we're kind of at the point of trying anything. And he had heard of the mangosteen juice at a 4th of July celebration from a friend, so he just started drinking it. And you know, sometimes things are gradual, so he wasn't really noticing anything, and I wasn't really noticing anything until we took a trip to Colorado and didn't have the juice with us. And then I noticed, and he noticed. He was going downhill. He was getting back, and the things that we hadn't picked up on, we picked up on. His energy, his digestive system, him being able to, something simple as going to the bathroom. And so when we got back, he instantly went back on it, and I said, you know, I'm skeptical, but because of what I've seen, I want to try it. Well, the reason why I wanted to try it was because I have depression, or had depression. I was on antidepressants for quite a while, prescribed, you know, from a doctor, and if you take too much of those, you get real fogged out. And the medications that I was on before just always left me very foggy. And yeah, I wouldn't cry all the time, but because the reason why I wouldn't cry all the time anymore is because the medication took away my tears, basically. So I had no emotion. But so I started drinking the juice, and within 2 weeks, my mind was clearer than it had ever been before. The fog was gone. I've already started weaning myself off of the medication, and the energy level that I have now is just, it's outstanding. It's just amazing. And my dad also has depression, and I almost instantly, I called him and I said, Dad, I got to tell you about this fruit that God made that's in Southeast Asia that is just full of all this wonderful stuff. And I just told him everything. I'm so pumped, you know, because of how I feel now, and I'm telling everybody, it's wonderful. Another thing I noticed about drinking the mangosteen juice was being able to sleep. I've always been able to sleep, actually, but it's my husband. He never could sleep. And so because he can sleep now, I can sleep now. So it's kind of twofold, but the juice has just really helped with being able, for him to be able to get a whole night's sleep and wake up refreshed. And
I used to go to bed at 12:30 at night, and I'd be up by 6 o'clock in the morning just because I'd be hurting. After about 5 or 6 hours, my legs would be hurting so bad that there was just no sleeping from that point on. It was just better to get up and move around. I had to get up and move around.
yeah, he'd spend a lot of nights on the recliner out of bed, and I'd wake up and where's my honey?
I noticed after I started the mangosteen juice that all of a sudden I was sleeping 8-9 hours, and I'd wake up and I'm like, the birds would be chirping, and I'm like, man, it's already daylight outside. You know, what's up with this? And I can sleep in bed with my wife rather than sleeping in the recliner without her. You know, or going back and forth several times throughout the night. And I just feel better knowing that she gets to sleep too, because it used to be she'd be, you okay? I always wake her up, I get out of bed, and she'd be like, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm hurting. I'm just gonna go lay in the recliner. And now my head hits the pillow and see you in the morning. So it's a great feeling getting to sleep again.
In 2005, I received some crushing news. A dear loved one was ill. We'd almost lost her a couple times, and anybody that's been in this situation before knows how depression can set in and literally affect you on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. I suffered with this for many months, trying to cover it up with alcohol, hiding in my room, staying in bed watching movies, not even participating in life. It got to the point where I had to do something. I went to see my family physician, and they put me on the antidepressant Zoloft. I tried to take it for about 2 weeks, and I just simply couldn't tolerate the side effects. I was nervous, I was nauseous, I had to go back to the doctor, and at that time they recommended Paxil, another popular antidepressant. I took the Paxil, and for about 2 months I thought maybe I was going to be okay, but unfortunately the depression returned worse than before, and I even developed a sort of self-loathing. I couldn't function. My husband was very supportive. He said, the pills aren't working. I knew that. I went back to the doctor, and they wanted me to try a third antidepressant. I said no, I want to get off these pills. In doing that, I went through about a week of very difficult withdrawals. I had to be on Xanax for that week, but I got off the drugs. And about 3 weeks later, I met a new friend. This friend introduced me to mangosteen. I looked it over, I talked with him a couple times, and I decided to try it. One of the best decisions I've ever made. After about 3 weeks of taking the mangosteen juice, my zest for life started to come back, and my sense of well-being improved significantly. Here it is a little over a year later. I'm still enjoying mangosteen juice, and I'm setting goals, living life to the fullest. What I love about mangosteen's whole fruit puree is the fact that you receive a total plethora of benefits through this one product. It's amazing.
My depression, and I didn't realize depression was caused by inflammation in most cases. And my depression started to go away. It was wonderful. It was just like an eye-opening experience. I wasn't doing anything else except for, well, taking my antibiotics, but the one thing I added was whole fruit puree, mangosteen. And in 4 months, in fact, my cholesterol dropped 60 points from that period on.
That's a plus.
Yeah, it's a plus. I wasn't even thinking about that. But it has done nothing but change my life. And I am so thankful that I was able to find it because a good friend said, hey, just give this a try. Changed my life.
I was first introduced to mangosteen by my best friend, who at the time said, hey, drink this. It's helping my leg cramps. I think it'll help your diabetes. And that didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So I started using mangosteen. I started out with just a couple ounces in the morning. And after the third day, I woke up with a blood sugar that was down 60 to 80 points. My morning blood sugar, like most diabetics, is usually the highest number of the day. I've been diabetic for 16, 18 years that I know of. And I thought, this is crazy. This is just outright wacky. So the first thing I do in the morning is pick my finger and check my blood. So I go in the bedroom and I say to my wife, you're not going to believe this, but I've got a low blood sugar and I feel great. She said, well, why do you think that is? I said, I think it's this juice. And so anyway, I went to a meeting that night to learn more about the product. There happened to be a meeting in Green Bay, and I went up there, and I came home with this one sheet of black and white paper, and my wife's correcting papers, and I threw it at her, and I said, you're not going to believe the things I heard tonight. She said, do you really think it's the juice? I said, I don't know, but they said to go ahead and test this product. So that's what I'm going to do. Well, I needed to make a blood lab anyway. Twice a year as a diabetic, they check your blood numbers. So I scheduled a blood lab for 5 weeks out. And I went to the doctor, and the results of my blood lab, my A1C, my long-term fasting blood sugar, which the lowest it had been at any point in the last 15, 16 years was a 7.1 on a scale, of course, where 4.8 to 6.0 is normal, and I had a 5.5. And my triglycerides had gone down 74 points in 5 weeks. And all my doctor's nurse could say is, I don't know what you're doing, Carl, but whatever it is, you better keep doing it. And I said, don't worry. I said, I'm going to keep doing it. Well, I had another checkup. I had another checkup last November. And again, my long-term blood sugar, my A1C, was 5.9. So twice within a year, I've had a normal long-range fasting blood sugar. And that's the first time, like I said, in 15, 16 years. The first thing I remind other diabetics of is that this product does not work for everybody in 3 days like it worked for me. Mine is kind of one of those wow stories. You know, in 3 days' time, I'm like, hey, this is doing good stuff for me. Consistently, this product needs to be taken every day, of course. With diabetics, it's critical that it's taken with the food, as we know for most health concerns. I guess the real privilege and joy with this product for me is when other diabetics call my home, or when someone I know that's using mangosteen says, Carl, can you talk to so-and-so? They're diabetic. And talking with diabetics, whether they're insulin dependent or not, I mean, I've reduced my insulin consumption by 50% in 16 months. I now use 1 vial of insulin a month where I used to use 2. I no longer take one of my oral medications, the one with the most side effects. That's out the window. But the real joy and privilege comes in helping other people. And I say to people oftentimes, if I did nothing but help diabetics, would it be worth my time and effort? When you're as passionate about something as I am about what mangosteen has done for my malady, without a doubt. If I did nothing but talk to diabetics. But the market is so much far greater than that. Skeptical? You bet I was skeptical, especially since my best friend told me that it was helping his leg cramps and that it could help my diabetes. Of course I was like, how can this be? And then when I started doing my homework and I started doing a little research myself and I realized how much research was behind this, I was like, I, like everybody else, well, not only am I wondering what's this about, but why haven't I heard of it before? You know, when we realize that mangosteen in its purest form is less than 5 years old to the Western Hemisphere, it's like, okay, now I know why I haven't heard of it before, but we got to get the word out on this.
And my counts when I was diagnosed were over 500, and so I was very badly dehydrated. And So I was in the hospital for a few days, and they found out. And I think in March, I started taking mangosteen, and pretty much from the first day I took it, I kept having to lower my long-acting insulin, pretty much 1 unit a day, so that when I first started, I was taking 19 units of Lantus a day, and now I'm down to 8 units every day. So that's what it's done for me, and I've had a lot more energy as well. Without the mangosteen, I don't think I'd have as much energy, and I'd have to take all the much more Lantus, and I think it's just helped me with that, having more energy a lot too. It can really help them, and for type 1s, it can lower your having to take as much insulin, and for type 2s, it can probably eliminate having to take any kind of medicine. And I just love to help people to learn more about mangosteen, and so it will help them. If you have diabetes, what do you have to lose? Just try it.
I've had diabetes for about 15 years. The doctor said that in 2006 I would probably be going on insulin. At that time, I decided that, my health was most important, and I needed something different in my life than taking drugs and the needles. So I then decided that the mangosteen was the way to go. I got great results with my leg cramps at night, which I had over for 20 years. After taking the mangosteen for about 6 months, I've noticed with the mangosteen that I've had great results. My numbers have gotten better with longer use. The mangosteen has gotten my numbers down from 350 to 123 with no medications. Every once in a while I do take some medications if I see that it's spiking, but it's basically no medications. The last 4 blood works that I've had have gotten better each time. My doctor now has admitted that the mangosteen fruit has actually done what it's supposed to do, because it's lowered my cholesterol, my diabetes, my blood pressure, and he's seen the results. I have also taken more care of my health. My weight has dropped 50 pounds, and it's just a great feeling to have people say, "You look great. What are you doing?"
I've been drinking mangosteen since December of '06, so I guess for about 11 months now. And at first, my wife and I just drank it for health and prevention. That's it, because we didn't have any known ailments. About a month later, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. So we're thankful that mangosteen was brought in. God brought it in at a good time. And I obviously did a change in diet as well to help control, because the doctor wanted to put me on medication immediately, and I didn't want to take any medication. Changed my dose of mangosteen and started drinking 2 ounces 3 times a day. And I went back to the doctor 3 months later, and my blood sugar was normal, running about 100, 110. And also, my blood pressure dropped, my triglycerides dropped, the good cholesterol went up, and the bad cholesterol went down. So, and about 2 or 3 months after that, I also started realizing that I hadn't had a sinus headache in several months. And I hadn't missed any days of, I'm a teacher, I haven't missed any days of work, being out of school, used to always get sinus headaches and be out for a few days, and I just sleep until they wore off. And I haven't had a sinus headache since. That's been a wonderful relief too. And I didn't notice that I didn't even pay attention or think about it. So, and I go to a doctor next week for the 6-month checkup, and I noticed I used to always take a lot of naps, like to sleep a lot, and now I get up in the morning, I don't need to take any naps during the day, and I don't feel sleepy. So I feel that mangosteen has helped with the energy level as well. And that's my mangosteen story.
Having sugar diabetes type 2 and 3 years ago, and was taking just the pill medication. I never got to the point where I had to take insulin, but since being on the mangosteen juice, we've controlled it with little exercise and diet and the mangosteen juice, and I only take a half of 2.5 milligrams pill a day now. And I also had total knee replacement last July 15th, or a year ago on July 15th, and the inflammation was so bad. By the time I went and had it done, my right knee hurt worse than the left knee, which needed to be replaced. And since that time, being on the mangosteen juice, I don't have any pain in either knee. And I had the total knee replacement done on the left side. I work every day and with no pain at all in my knees.
When I start drinking mangosteen, they help me a lot for diabetic and cholesterol. Even I talk to my doctor and I say, I drinking this kind of juice, mangosteen, and he say, mangosteen is good. And he take me to make a blood test, and after a couple months, I received my results. And he put a short notice in the note for my diabetic, that was good, cholesterol, that was good, and my kidneys improved. And I was very happy for that.
I started using it when our friends had introduced us to it. I noticed that I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. They have me taking pills, and I really don't like taking pills, so I started taking the mangosteen 2 or 3 times a day, and I noticed that my energy level, it was up. My aches and pains weren't as bad. I'm still trying to control my numbers on my blood, but I do have antithrombin 3, which runs in my Native American family. Not all Native Americans have it, but I just happen to be in the family that does, and I noticed that it's helped me quite a bit. I feel more energetic, and it's helped my stress a great deal, and I just want to try and help other people to, to be able to say, hey, there is something out there, and it doesn't hurt to try. Type 2 diabetes, and which is pretty prevalent in Native Americans, and so that's what my mission and our mission is going to be.
Yeah, to take the mangosteen juice.
Juice, yep, the mangosteen juice. Without it, I wouldn't be here, because it's helped my stress and my whole outlook, where if I didn't have it, I'm not sure where I'd be. So it's helped me a great deal.
I was originally diagnosed with diabetic during my pregnancy. I didn't know what it is at the beginning, but as the doctor said, my sugar level is too high. To keep it under control, exercise, do a lot of walking, and diet the food. So I did that, and I went back again to see the doctor. I think it's a week later, because it's toward the end of the pregnancy when it's labor time. It did not go down. My scale, my weight keep gaining, so diet again, and it didn't go down, but it only went up 1 point. Or the doctor finally said, you have to be on insulin. So I finally figured out, okay, what is this thing going to do to the diabetic and things like that. to the diabetic, what's it going to do to the baby? He explained that, and I said, okay, fine. I didn't want any complications to my baby. So I agreed to the insulins, and I took the insulins 3 times a day. After I had the baby, I went back, for the review, and he said, "Oh, you still have the diabetic." So I said, "Okay, great. What is this thing now?" So he explained what the diabetic is to me, and said, exercise a little bit more. You just had a baby, exercise, and then diet the food again, try the food again and see what happened. Well, I did that again, and I went back in 3 months and checked and said, well, it's still there. I said, okay, that's it. How can you tell me I'm diabetic? Look at me. I mean, I'm healthy, I'm okay, I don't see something that I can fix it from my vision. What is this thing, So he explained to me, okay, this is diabetic, this is what it's all about, how it's going to hurt you and things like that. Well, I said, well, then I'm determined to get this thing off me. What can I do? He said, well, keep taking the medication that I give you, and also watch what you eat, and then exercise. I did that, took the medication as I was told. When it's time to go back to see the doctor again, I did. No, it didn't go down again. It still goes up. So then I asked him, what is this cholesterol? What is this A1C? All those things. He was doing the testing, so I wanted to know all those things are. So I said, okay, what is the numbers that you become diabetic and things like that? Basically, I think I started out at 6.4 at A1C. And then I came back and went up to 6.8. I came back and went up to 7.3. And I said, okay, that's it. I have to look for alternative medication. What is there out there that I can take? My in-laws started giving me some herbal stuff, other herbal stuff, not mangosteen yet. So I was taking other herbal stuff, and taking it for a while, it didn't even work. So I was talking to some other friends, some of my friends, and started talking, and that's all I did. Everybody said, you gotta try this mangosteen juice. I heard lots of good things about it. So let me test this thing out first and see what happens. So I tested it out for 3 months. I said, basically agree with him, say, I'll do it for 3 months. If it did not work, I'll do what you say. In 3 months, I went back, I checked, he checked it out at 6.7. I said, yes, that's what I wanted to hear. So I'm determined to, get this diabetic here out of my system. And the great thing about it is that, when I started drinking the juice, I went to some of the meetings and some of the mangosteen experience, and I heard this guy who is diabetic. His condition was worse than mine. He was toward the dialysis area, and he had neuropathy. His leg was getting numb. They're going to amputate it and things like that. And I said, if he can get out, I have a good chance to get out. So I'm in for 120%, and as I go and as I drink this juice, and I go to hear a lot of more stories, I became to know, to me, it's like it helps with just about anything. This guy with cancer, it helped him. This lady with cancer, breast cancer, it helped her, and I couldn't believe how this thing was doing. So I really do believe that the mangosteen, it's 120% of what's working on me. So I'm going to give it a shot, and I really have nothing to lose. If they can get away with it and they're in better and worse shape than I am, hey, I have a chance. So I'm going all the way. That's it.
It was eczema. He had eczema really bad on his arms and the back of his legs, on his face. Where we used to live, it was hot, and he would sweat, and it would just get really bad and crack and get dry, and he would always complain about it. And when he started drinking the mangosteen, it went away, and he hasn't had it since. We started it in September, and ever since then, he hasn't had any issues with it. So
yeah. So we drank it for 9 months to drink it at night and day for like 8 months. So it's fun having a family, and fun having a sister, and fun having a daddy, and fun having mommy. So it's a great life for me. Mangosteen did that for me. It's like a happy family and happy life.
How does it feel that you don't have to itch your arms all the time?
It feels more comfy in my body.
It's comfy, huh? You're not scratching and you're not crying and it's not bleeding, huh? He takes an ounce in the morning and an ounce at night, after dinner and after breakfast. And they never let me forget. They're always telling me, let's go take our mangosteen right now, Mommy, right now, So it's great. With Malachi, he was on Elidel. I mean, it's a topical ointment that's supposed to get rid of eczema. And it was so hard because you could see it and, it hurt him, and it was awful because, you could see him in pain, see him itching, and nothing seemed to help until he started taking the mangosteen, and it helped out. So if your child has eczema, try it. It's great. It works. I promise. Yeah.
I was introduced to the mangosteen juice about 2 months ago for eczema or eczema that I had on my shin for 35 years. I've tried different things. It keeps on coming back and everything. And 6 days later, first day I was so excited that this guy gave it to me. This will do it. I don't believe any of this. If I go home 6 days later, it's gone. I said, this can't be happening. So I went off it. About 4 days later, it started coming back. Drank a whole bottle. Went home, drank the whole thing. Then I kept on it. Still didn't believe it. No way. So I ordered 2 cases a month now. And I've stayed on it, and the things that have happened to me are physically, mentally sharper, are absolutely life-changing for me. I have a 3-year-old son. I have arthritis in my hips, and my knees are, and he's a maniac, roughhouser. I put a mattress on the floor so I could roll out on the floor, get myself on a little table like this, and work my way up. After a month, took my wife to the airport in O'Hare. She was going to visit her mother in Mexico. I can't ride for an hour in a car, stay in the same position without having to get out, work my legs around, get out. So I'm standing in O'Hare. I said, my God, I just walked into the airport with the luggage and not a pain. I said, still didn't believe it. Still, this is crazy. Drove home. This is another test. I drove home 3 hours, made sure I didn't get out of the car. Got home and ran up the steps. I attend bar a couple days a week at the Riverview. Can I say that? I don't know. Riverview, at a country club in Appleton. I've owned nightclubs throughout the state, so I do a lot of the stocking of the beer. I flunked my physical for Vietnam because my knees were screwed up. So I'm bending down, not getting on my hands and knees and putting the beer, and I'm discovering something new every day. Bending down with my knees after 35 years. My hips, my knees, eczema. So I went to the doctor the other day. My blood pressure's always been 130, 140 over something. After 2 months that I've been on mangosteen, 104/78. So I don't believe it. This is about 3 weeks ago today. Don't believe it. Smoke a couple cigarettes, go down there, just raise my blood pressure. Go in to the doctor again because I still don't believe it. 110/80. It's been life-changing for me, my son, my wife, all the way around. It's just been a positive thing. And right now, I will drink 2 cases a month for the rest of my life. Absolutely changed my whole life around. Especially for my 3-year-old son. Be able to play in roughhouse with him again. Hands on knees, horseback ride, put him on my shoulder and run up the stairs. It's an amazing transformation for me. No, they don't. Well, I still don't believe it, and I believe it because I've tested it and tested it and tested it in different areas, and the most powerful thing is having my son jump on me, stomp on me, and be able to pick him up and roughhouse, run around and have him on my back, or give him horseback rides. And be able to do that, yeah, it's just, and Kim comes up, we were playing football the other night. And when I was a kid, they called it, go get it. Throw the football like this. He was a roughhouser. Go get the football. Brought the football back to me, put his hands on my cheeks, kissed me on the lips, and said, I love you, Daddy. That's right there. There's, and you can't put a price on it. Impossible. So I'm the happiest guy in the world.
In 2003, my health started to break. I was always very active, full of energy, and all of a sudden my body started shutting down. I started having terrific pain in my right shoulder, my neck, my arm. I went to my doctor and they wanted to do neck surgery. And so I refused that. I wanted other opinions. I went to six other doctors and they told me I did not need surgery. So among that time, I started having tremors in my right hand. Everything started happening in the right side. Starting tremoring so bad that my husband had to cut my food up. I couldn't drive a lot. Then the fatigueness continued. Throughout that time, 2004, I was diagnosed with essential tremors. They put me on antidepressants. I was on pain medication for that, which was not helping any. Among that time, I also could not sleep at night, such severe pain that I was in bath water around 2 to 3 every morning, trying to get relief of pain. Took around 1.5 years for them to diagnose me with fibromyalgia. Then I started having severe joint pain in my joints. I could not do much with my hands. Crank the car, turn doorknobs, just lift my grandchildren. My whole life had changed, all of my lifestyle. I had to just readjust to what I could do in my home. My 80-year-old mother had to come in. She had to start doing a lot of my housework. My husband had to fill in and do a lot of it. Usually by 3:34 in the afternoons, I was down. I just couldn't stay up. I, wanted to go to bed a lot because I did not have any energy, was in pain. 2005, I went to Mayo Clinic and was diagnosed with aggressive rheumatoid arthritis. I was put on methotrexate, the highest dosage they could give me orally. For 1.5 years I was on that. Still, I was not getting much better at all. Still had the pain in the joints. Was still shutting down a lot from the fibromyalgia. I had went through all of the inflammatory medications like Mobic, Dextra, Vox, just about every one they had tried me on. Nothing was working. And so I'd really gotten to the point of just wanting to give up on life. Didn't have much of a life. When we went anywhere, I didn't enjoy going anywhere because I always usually ended up in the back seat lying down because I didn't feel like I couldn't a lot of times open the doors to get out of the car. My mom, when we went anywhere, my mom or husband would go and have to carry my purse a lot of times. That's how weak I was. Among that time, I really did want to give up. I didn't want to live like that. One night, my sister-in-law, this was in 2006, she called. She lives in Iowa, and she was on the mangosteen juice, and she offered it to me to try. And so I went ahead and said, yes, I'll try anything. The medication isn't working. I'm getting worse. They're getting ready to intravenously start feeding me the embryo through the veins for the rheumatoid. So I went ahead, ordered in the mangosteen, and I started out on 6 ounces a day for 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, I started seeing a change in myself. And by 4 weeks, I started getting stronger. I could actually start turning the doorknobs, cranking the car a little better. My pain started leveling off, and it was just like a miracle happening. And by 6 weeks, I went back to my physician. He could find no heat or swelling in the joints. and wanted to know what I was doing. And I took my juice with me, and I showed him the bottle of mangosteen juice, and he told me he had never heard of it. And he said, you know that Mayo Clinic told you you would be on methotrexate the rest of your life. And he said, I think you're going to make a mistake by getting off, but I'm going to taper you down on it. And by January, you'll be completely off of it. January 1st, you'll be off of it. And that was from October to January, I was on the juice. And so by January 1st, I was completely off of all medication. And I went back I continued to get better. Went back in February, and still no sign of any heat or swelling in the joints. The tremors, I went to visit the neurologist. He wanted to know what had happened to the tremors. I had no longer any tremors. No more shutdowns of fibromyalgia. I came back from the doctor in August, very excited because there was still no sign of any rheumatoid, fibro, or tremors. No blood work had to be done. Along that time in the summers, I was an avid water skier, and I had to give up all my water skiing. This past summer, I've been back water skiing, enjoying life again, doing the things that I had been doing before 2003. It has been very touching to my husband, Mangosteen, also, because he honestly thought that he was going to lose his wife. He tells everybody he can't talk about it without breaking, because he really feels like he got his wife back. And so, you know, I'm thankful to God. I had prayed for a natural, that I could find a natural, and I'm glad that I did not, you know, get my mind set on being so skeptical that I didn't try it. And I'm thankful every step that I take, that I have found mangosteen. And it's the greatest investment that I have ever made, the greatest money that I've ever spent in my life. I have now a life with my grandchildren that I didn't have. My little grandson told me a few weeks ago that he remembers the times when I had to go to bed early at night. I didn't get to spend time with them like I am now. And it has totally given me my life back that I had before 2003, before my health broke. I can honestly say I go from early morning, I can go to midnight. And I never thought, you know, that it would happen as severe as I was with the fibro, well, all three of them combined. So I never had surgery, which I was supposed to have had, and it's all because of mangosteen juice was shared with me. And I'm thankful for it every day. And I'm not saying that it will do the same for you, but I hope that you will be open-minded enough to give it a chance.
Well, I have had fibromyalgia for at least 15 years, maybe longer, probably longer. And I won't even go into detail because people know how bad it is. You feel like you have probably the last stages of bone cancer or something, because the pain is so deep, you know. And unrelenting, and pain medication doesn't help. So I met my dear friend Mary Portman, who has, you know, had such wonderful results. And when I saw what the miracle that it did for her with her rheumatoid arthritis, I thought, well, maybe it will help me too. And at that time, my hands were so bad, I could hardly comb my hair or brush my teeth. It felt like I had sometimes nails and sometimes like railroad spikes going through my hands. And it was just, you know, it just sucks the life out of you. And I couldn't really do anything with my hands. I did, but it was just incredibly painful. So I started taking this juice, mangosteen juice, and it didn't take the pain away right away, but I had such a sense of well-being. You know, I just felt relaxed and happy and content, and I just felt so good all the time. It was amazing. But the pain, that did not go away. So I started taking more. I took quite a bit. And in about 3 days, all the pain was gone out of my hands. All of it. And that was 2 years ago, and my hands are just great. But I was so happy to be able to use my hands again, that I painted. We have several buildings on our property. We live out in the country, and I painted with a paintbrush and up and down the ladder and painting all of the buildings. And I was just amazed. I was so happy. You have no idea how happy I was to be able to do all of this. And I continued on until the weather got so cold that I couldn't paint anymore, and I was so disappointed. So I owe it all to my friend Mary, who had her miraculous results, and I've had the same, and I just want the world to know that it's just a wonderful thing. And I mean, this is fibromyalgia and rheumatoid arthritis, but there's so many other things too. That mangosteen really does make life worth living. It's just given me my life that I can enjoy. I don't just tolerate living and try to get through each day. I enjoy every day. If you have anything wrong with you, I can guarantee you, if you just try mangosteen juice, it's just a wonderful thing, and you should really give it a chance. What if you really do try it and it helps you? You'll never be sorry. You'll never be sorry. You might be sorry if you don't try it.
When I started on mangosteen, it was through a nurse who comes to see me. And I started about 3 ounces 3 times a day, and I am still on that. And so it's just helped me so much, made me feel better. I sleep better, I rest better, I relax better, and it's just done wonders for me, and I wouldn't take anything for mangosteen. And I tell everybody about it, but there's not many people. They're real skeptical. I have a neighbor who lives down the street here. He needs to be on it because his dad had emphysema and heart problems, and his mother had a lot of health problems too. When I first started on mangosteen, I don't remember exactly how long it took me before I realized it was doing me some good. But it wasn't too long, because I was feeling I have arthritis, just 2 kinds with everything else. And when it started taking hold, then that's when I knew that I had something that I was not going to give up. I didn't care how much it cost. We depend on going to the drugstore to get a prescription filled, and instead of using the natural herbs and things that are available to us. And mangosteen is one of the greatest inventions yet. I hope I don't ever run out. I just thank the good Lord that I'm able to wake up in the morning, and I thank Him. I thank Him when I go to bed, that I'm able to wake up, and I get so amused. I have the television on, and I have some little birds that sleep right here, and when they wake up, I hear them, and I turn the TV down real low so I can hear them talk to each other. And that's a delight too. God's little creatures.
My health started debilitating. It just went downhill from the start of not being able to move my head or my neck without turning my body. Climbing steps was a problem because my knees hurt so bad. And at about the year mark to a year and a half, I literally could not move at all. I got so serious that our one son is a chiropractor, and he suggested extensive blood work. In this blood work, they found that I had the RA factor. And what basically that is my my immune system stopped working. And I was told that I had rheumatoid arthritis. It even got a little worse than that. I became bedridden. I needed a wheelchair when I had to go to the doctor's office. I had to take my nurse along with me to take my clothes off and put them on me. And I could speak, but I couldn't hold anything. And I was in pain literally all the time. I really only slept due to exhaustion. And because I have a fighting spirit, and I have a very wonderful husband who stood by my side and said, we will find something, he stayed with me. He took me outside of the house, even though I wanted to just be in my bed all the time and sleep, and it was very depressing. And he would sit me in the sunlight, and he'd say, we will find something, Mary. We just have to believe that we will find something. This went on for 2 years, roughly. And people knew that I became not exactly a recluse, but I sort of dropped off from the social. I didn't even grocery shop. He grocery shopped. My husband did the dishes. He literally was the angel that God sent to me at that time. It was so hard for me to do anything when my little grandson was born, and this was only 4 years ago. I could not hold him without him being placed in my arms, and my son, whose child it was, standing behind me, holding my arms so I wouldn't have him roll out of my arms. I tried to always put a smile on my face because I knew that I just had to. I knew that I would find something. I believed that because I have a strong faith, like I had said earlier. So actually what happened next was I tried many natural products. I always try the natural or the alternatives before I go to the conventional. And many of these seemed to help, but none of them seemed to eliminate the inflammation that I had. I had so much inflammation. There's a test that the doctor did that was called a SED rate test, and it stands for the sedimentation within your system. 0 to about 30 is normal, and mine hovered right around 125 for close to 2 years. A friend came to visit us, and I was a friend of my son's, one of my sons, and she had a paper with her, and across the top it had a word that I never recognized, and it said mangosteen. And she said to me, Mary, I have something that's very debilitating. She said, I have Crohn's disease, and I'm only 31 years old. And she said, your son told me that you have something that's just as serious. She said, I'd like you to read this newspaper. I think it can bring you some hope. And I did. I read it. I spoke with my husband about it. And then I called our son, who is a chiropractor, David, and he studied a lot of nutrition. And I said, David, there's something out there that's supposed to be new that fights inflammation, and this is what I have ravaging my body, this inflammation. He said, Mom, I just found out about it. He said, no, maybe 10 days ago. He said a good friend came over, and he said, you know who it is? It's Eric. Well, I was Eric's Sunday school teacher when Eric was 10. I said, Eric brought you that? I said, well, then I think I'm going to try it. I said, is there anything behind it that would make it work? He said, it's just food. He said, you don't have to know if it's going to work or not. If it has worked on lots of people, just try this fruit called mangosteen. It's a juice, he said. It's good for you. And he said, Mom, if it helps you, he said, you're the kind of person that won't stop talking, and you'll help so many people. And it helped me. It helped me within 3 weeks. I started it on May 5th of 2005, and I was still walking with a cane, and I was still using my walker. And when I went in a store, I had to be pushed in a wheelchair. Well, anyway, at about 3 weeks, I had to go to a funeral. Our best friend was dying. I didn't need my cane. I got better week by week. And I asked our son, who's the chiropractor, is it okay if I start walking? I feel like I can walk. He said, yes. Walk a half a block, walk a block, walk a few more blocks, he said, and just drink lots of water and keep drinking this juice. Keep drinking this mangosteen juice. I said, okay, David, I will. And I got progressively better as I drank it. And my husband sitting here by me actually took care of me, and he was the one who gave me the hope. But I truly believe that it was our Lord that sent that lady, who I think was the angel, to our door to talk to us that day about this juice called mangosteen.
Approximately 6 years ago, I spoke to my nurse practitioner, and she felt that what I had was fibromyalgia. I had pain in my legs, pain in my arms. My feet felt like they had gotten beat with a rubber hammer. I'd be up for about a half an hour. After that, every step I took was painful. I had pain in my arms and my legs. My nerves from my legs felt like they were on the edge because my clothing felt like I had pickers in them. After a short time of being on the mangosteen juice, I started it in November of 2005. I was on the juice for 3 months, and that went away. My feet took a little bit longer. It took another month, but I was pain-free. I have no more problems with my clothing feeling like they have pickers in them. And as far as my walking, my feet don't feel like they have been beaten up anymore. Mangosteen has been amazing, and it's been a godsend for me, because at my age I felt the next step was a nursing home and a wheelchair. Give it a try. It heals from the inside rather than camouflaging or covering up the problems that you have.
6 years ago in September, I woke up to paralysis, complete paralysis, and I had a mysterious illness. It was misdiagnosed several things, Lou Gehrig's disease, MS, etc. But one thing they knew is I had a cascading inflammatory response throughout my body. A year later, my wife gave up her career as an officer in the Air Force, 14 years. We moved back to a local area for familial support, and 2 weeks before that we went and saw a specialist, found out I actually had a very long-standing case of Lyme disease. It had so infected my brain and my internal organs that it was causing my immune system to attack my nervous system and everything else. Some of the symptoms I suffered from, especially pain-wise, is if the best way for me to describe this is if, as a kid or as an adult, you're running down the street, you trip, you fall, and you skin your knee, and you've got exposed nerves, and it's just on fire. It hurts. Same thing as if you put your hand on a stove burner. Imagine that pain completely enveloping every inch of skin around your body, in every orifice, your nose when you breathe, your mouth, your ears, your eyes, everything burning. That was the sensation of pain I went through. Thank the good Lord, I had a very high pain threshold because no medication could stop it. Other things that would happen was brain fog. I couldn't remember anything. I'd get lost at the local superstore. Didn't know where I was in town. Depression, no cognitive abilities. I couldn't think. But then a good friend of mine introduced me to whole fruit puree mangosteen. And it wasn't because of my Lyme disease, ironically. It was because my wife, 2 years after we found out I was paralyzed, she had third-stage breast cancer. We found that out on our 15th wedding anniversary. So that was why I found out about it about 9 months later. And she encouraged us to go on it. And I'll let her tell her story. But about 6 months after she'd been on the whole fruit mangosteen, I decided I needed to try it. So within 4 weeks, I was on IV antibiotics. The doctors told me that my liver was probably going to go downhill. I'd been on medication for a long time. It would just be too much for my liver to be able to handle. in 5 weeks, my liver did a complete turnaround even though I had gone on IV antibiotic. Now you've got to realize that one of the first known symptoms of my Lyme disease was total paralysis, waking up. The inflammatory response that my immune system was cascading attacked all the nerves where the spinal cord comes to the head, the base of the skull. And all of those nerves that come out and control your body, your voice box and everything, were so inflamed I couldn't move. And the resulting pain from that inflammation, I hear people talk about slip disc or crushed discs, and it's that, but I had it everywhere in every nerve that gives you pleasure. It's the best way for me to describe it. So finally, I went on the mangosteen preparation. My liver got better. My cognitive thoughts got better. I could think. I was starting to be able to organize again. I had energy. My depression, I didn't realize depression was caused by inflammation in most cases. And my depression started to go away. It was wonderful. It was just like an eye-opening experience.
Well, about 2 years ago, I always worked in the woods all my life, and I've aches, pains, anti-inflammation. I've been tested about 3-4 times for Lyme disease. Report comes back. You got something, but we don't know what. Inflammation. I couldn't lift my knees too much. I've tried the pills. Nothing worked. So about a year ago, we were introduced by our friends to try the mangosteen fruit. And I noticed one thing, after about 2 weeks, the inflammation started leaving. And basically right now I believe in it because of the way I feel. And mangosteen has made a new man out of me.
2 years ago, I found out I needed a major surgery. It was the second major surgery I'd ever had to have due to this tissue disorder. It happened to be a descending aortic replacement. And so I went down to Houston to have it done, and the surgery went very well. And of course, there are always possibilities of complications when you consider it involves all the internal organs, and about a 2-foot scar that it leaves. And so when I got done with surgery, I had problems with my voice, and one of the possibilities was that it could interfere with my vocal cords because they have to actually move a nerve that goes over the descending aorta when they do descending aortic replacement surgery. Well, it did. It interfered with my voice, and I kind of talked like this. I basically had no voice, and I was getting to about 4.5 months after surgery, and I had gone to an ear, nose, and throat doctor, and they had verified that one vocal cord was basically completely paralyzed and that my voice would never get any better without surgery. Well, the surgery they wanted to do involved my tissues, which I already have a tissue disorder. He said, well, that's okay. If the surgery doesn't work, we can do it a few more times. And I thought, okay, I've had to have 2 major surgeries in my life. Those were unavoidable to save my life because they involved my heart. You want to do a few more surgeries because of a paralyzed vocal cord? I don't think so. Well, about that time, a friend of mine invited me to a mangosteen meeting, asked me if I'd ever heard of mangosteen, and I said no. But, I'd try it. Again, I believe in prevention. I was still very weak. 4.5 months after surgery, I had no energy. I was really struggling. And so I went to the meeting. I thought, this sounds really good. It's all natural. Can't hurt me. So I bought a bottle of the mangosteen juice, started taking it October 17th. On the 28th of October, I was on my second bottle of mangosteen. I'd signed up as a distributor by then because I was already feeling I had more energy. I saw a lot of really good things about the mangosteen juice. And the 28th of October, which also happened to be my birthday, I got my voice back. And that's with a paralyzed vocal cord. That's with no surgery. Nothing had been done other than just taking the mangosteen juice. And it's been like this ever since. I've pretty well gone back to living a very active, very normal life in spite of supposedly needing more surgeries and having the drawbacks that I did after my major descending aortic replacement surgery. So needless to say, I will never go without the mangosteen juice, and I've been very, very happy with the results and the healing and the pain relief and just all of the things. I have my life back 2 years after my surgery and about 1.5 years after starting the mangosteen juice.
I started on the whole fruit mangosteen back in February at a dose of 6 ounces a day. That was 3 in the morning and 3 at night. Sometimes I broke it up 2 and 2. And at that time, I was having menopausal problems, severe hot flashes, and adrenal failure. And after going on that, just a few days, the hot flashes disappeared. And the adrenals, I can tell, I haven't had them tested again, but I can tell I feel good. Before, I felt like I should be going to bed when I got up in the morning. I just felt really bad. And since then, I just feel great. You know, just feel like I should.
It helped her automatically with hot flashes.
I hate when he says that.
And she didn't like to hear that. And so she can tell a little bit about her story. We went through it. So she had 3 or 4 different car accidents over.
Don't tell my story.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
All right. Have the hot flashes. Get them back again. No, that'll hurt me too.
No, I had friends that have taken the whole fruit mangosteen juice and they noticed results right away.
Approximately about 5 years ago, I had a total hysterectomy. And if anyone knows about that, you have to be put on hormone replacement therapy. Through the process of me seeking many different routes of that and found out that taking estrogen can also cause inflammation in your arteries. So with me having a history of heart disease in my family, I had to go through an entire heart health exam, and luckily found out at that point everything was okay. But through that process, I was also recommended to Dr. Therese Bernard for hormone replacement therapy. And when she tested me, she found out that my hormones were completely out of whack. And so she also put me on the whole fruit mangosteen. She took me off all of my hormones, which, was a little scary to begin with, but, that was something that I really didn't want to continue doing the rest of my life with all the side effects of that. Probably within about 2 weeks after being on the whole fruit mangosteen, I started noticing more clarity of mind. I started noticing that I wasn't as agitated as what you can get being on the hormones. And it's now been 16 months. I have not taken any estrogen or progesterone or testosterone. And she also retested me 8 months after being off my hormones. And by the grace of God, and thank you to the whole fruit mangosteen, all of my results come back perfectly balanced, which was amazing. So I really want to share this story because I know that many women out there, they struggle with this. Whether they're surgical menopause or they just go into menopause, to know that there is another alternative. There's no way I can guarantee that the same results would happen for someone else that it did me, but it is well worth the shot because I had felt that my energy, my youth, everything had been stripped from me during that time, and now it has all been given back to me. I exercise regular, I take dance, I do ballet, jazz, and I just really feel like my life has been given back to me. So I thank the Lord every day for the whole fruit mangosteen. My feeling is you cannot buy your health, but you can buy prevention. And there's no guarantees sometimes with prevention, but you have a lot better chance with it than without it. So I recommend everyone to try the whole fruit mangosteen and just see what it can do for you. It may change your life also. Our son, Michael Boatwright, he had been sick for many, many years, probably since he was about 3. He had migraines probably about every other day. He had cluster headaches every day. We started putting Michael on the whole fruit mangosteen 2 ounces 3 times a day. Within 2 weeks, he has no longer taken any prescription drugs. It's been 16 months now. He is absolutely doing wonderful. It's a blessing from God, and we're just very grateful for that.
I have multiple sclerosis, and that's where my pain was coming from. Of course, with that comes a lot of problems. Cognitive thinking skills, things of that nature are affected very much, and usually constipations, things like that. And that's the mangosteen juice has helped me in that area as well. So, I started on the mangosteen on the 5th of July when I was introduced to it by a friend, and I started taking it for a couple months, just kind of trying it out. And I noticed my energy picked up the first week I was taking it right off the bat, and then about the third, fourth week, I didn't really realize it, but we went to Colorado. I realized that we went to Colorado, and I forgot to take any with me. And all of a sudden, I was hurting. I mean, just really bad, just about every day. And so I thought, well, that's kind of odd. So when I got back home, after about the second week of taking it again, the pain all went back away. And so due to the mangosteen, it's helped my energy levels, it's helped my pain levels, and I've really noticed last week it's really helping my focus on things. I'm also a college student, so it's really helped my focus and my clarity of mind and things of that nature. Now that God's given me this incredible mangosteen juice, I just want to share that with everybody that has MS or other demyelinating illnesses, autoimmune diseases, because I really think that it's a product that can help a lot of people without the harmful side effects of the medications that they have most of us on. And most of the medications I'm on is very toxic to the liver. My shots, they start leaving big bad bruises all over your sides, and it's just kind of really, looks like you've been beat up, and take those every day. And after, it's just very harmful in the system. I've been able to get off most of my medications due to mangosteen juice, so I'm very proud of that, and I want everybody to know about that there is an alternative way out there.
I had a real severe Charlie horse, what I thought was a Charlie horse. I've had them 100 times. I walked it out, thought, boy, that was a bad one. And I thought, well, I must be missing something in my diet to cause this. I was working for the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I was within 6 months of retirement. I went home. I had a couple of light episodes that weekend, cramps. The following Monday, I went to work, and I'd worked all day, and I was getting ready to leave, and I had another severe leg cramp, Charlie horse. Only as I was standing there holding my breath trying to get this to stop, I noticed this arm here had done the same thing. It had locked up on me. Of course, that scared the fire out of me. I called my doctor and said, listen, I've got something wrong. I need to see you. That was, of course, after hours, and they said, well, first thing tomorrow, get in here. So I went to the doctor the next day, and I had a couple more episodes throughout the night. Went in, and I said, okay, here's what's happening. It's affecting my right leg and my right arm. He said, well, if something like that happens, he said, we're going to have to look at the brain. It's something to do with the brain. It's not a muscle or a nerve problem. It's actually in the brain. Scheduled me for a CAT scan first, almost immediately. I don't know if he just seen bad things here, but almost immediately. And he done that the next day. And the day after, I went back, and he said, well, it's inconclusive. There's something there on the left side of the brain, because it's the right side infected. It's the left side of the brain. We need to get an MRI done to get a better picture. That's what the radiologist recommended. So he scheduled me for that a couple of days later. During this time, I started having more episodes, only more severe, a longer duration. The first ones were only about 20 or 30 seconds. These were starting to get a little longer, a little worse. I went up for the for the MRI at the hospital. They took I actually had an episode standing there, and they all looked at me like I was crazy, and I said, this is what the problem is. Try to see what you can do. They checked it. I had a doctor's appointment 2 or 3 days later. Usually a doctor will call you and say everything's okay or not. Well, they didn't, and I went in and think, well, okay. I sat down, and my family doctor immediately told me that I have MS. He said they've consulted with all the radiologists, and everybody looked at the pictures, and I have MS. And that was the absolute last thing I ever imagined. Like I said, I'd been healthy my entire life. I hadn't been to a doctor probably in 30 years. I was kind of put down about it. I went to the doctor. He said, well, the good thing is there's medicine for MS now. Well, that's great, but it costs a lot of money. He said, don't worry about the money. There's grants to cover that. Well, this is not good. Being the type, he said, we'll get you in to see a neurologist as soon as possible and continue testing. I said, well, it may not be. He said, listen to me. Do what I tell you to do. Go home and rest, and we'll get you into this neurologist as soon as possible. All right? So being the geek that I am, I got on my little computer and looked this up. Well, there's medicine out there. It's at that time, which like I said, has been a couple of years, was the cheapest was almost $10,000 a year. And they didn't know whether my insurance would pay for it or not. And I'm thinking, oh, Lord, I'm looking at retirement. I'm not going to make much more, a whole heck of a lot more than that. So this kind of going to crimp my lifestyle. I continued having more episodes, as I call them. The cramping got worse. My hands got worse. My face was affected somewhat. I finally took off work. I went to before I got to see this neurologist, a friend of mine introduced me to the mangosteen juice. He said, you really need to try this. Well, this particular friend had tried to get me in a lot of businesses and different things, but he recommended it. There's two gentlemen that I work with, and the other one is just about as skeptical as I, and he said, listen, this stuff really works. Just try it. So I got to looking at it, and I had some brochures and paperwork that I looked at, and one of the papers, I was also on the internet looking up clinical trials that are being done for MS patients on different drugs. The one out, I believe it was in the Carolinas, there was a trial done that said that they're trying out, statins for cholesterol, and some of the xanthones that were found in this fruit, this mangosteen, had the same benefits. Because I was going to go to my doctor and say I knew that my insurance would pay for cholesterol drugs, but not something else. And I thought, well, okay, if this has got this, and the fruit has the same benefits, why don't I try this? It's one of the things that kind of fell together. So I told the wife, well, I'm going to do this, and she had a heart attack. She thought the expense was kind of up there, but I thought, well, it's better than $10,000 a year. So I got a brochure, the little brochure that somebody gave me, and it said take 6 ounces a day if you have a health issue. I thought, all right, I'll give it a fair trial. I'll do this for a few months. Now, being the type of person I am, I kind of kept all this activity, this episode and stuff to myself. But I started drinking 6 ounces a day, 3 times a day, 2 ounces each time. Within 3 to 4 days, the episodes became less severe and less frequent. Within a week to 2 weeks, they stopped. Now, I didn't tell anybody this because I'm from the old school. You don't talk about it. This may jinx it. So I let it go and I didn't say a word. Now, the thing of it is that when I done this, it took like 3 weeks to get to the first neurologist visit. He started testing me. Well, my test started coming back normal. And I went for, I forget how many testing, different types. I've been tested for everything in the world under MS. It got to the point at the end, he even done a spinal tap, and it's still coming back normal. Now, the spinal tap, they didn't get all the counts in or something. I don't know, it was inconclusive. But then he decided, well, maybe it's a stroke. Maybe you're having strokes. So he started testing me for carotid artery, checking that out. I forget the test and watch to see if there's any blockages in the carotids. Check my heart to see if there's any might be clots that were breaking loose, causing these strokes. That come back normal, within the normal ranges. The final thing was, and this, like I said, started in May, I believe it was, and the final test, or the end of April actually, and the final test was given to me that I saw my doctor was the end of June, and they walked in and saw this neurologist, and he said, you don't have MS. And my wife looked at him kind of funny because she'd seen all the changes I went through, and she said, well, what's wrong with him? His comment was, well, remember what we said about TIA, which is some mini strokes. And that was it. He got up, he's done with me. He walked out, see you in a couple of weeks. If you don't have any change, we'll see anymore. So I got up and I'm walking out the door and I'm thinking, okay, this is pretty good, but what do I do, you know? And my thought was, as I thought about it, I thought, now wait a minute. And that's what I've got a little book here that being the type of person I am where I worked in the prison system, you write down things. So I started keeping me a log of all my episodes, all my situations that I had in this log, and it's all in this. I can show it to anyone that wants to. At one point in time here, this is different writings that are in there. At one point, these are all my episodes. I was having 8, 9 episodes a day that I wrote down, and there were some that were minor enough that I didn't even write them down. So I was up to 10 to 15 episodes every day, and they just kept getting worse. They at one point reached 3 to 5 minutes at a time. I was having trouble. I couldn't walk. It wasn't so much that the muscle would cramp up, I just couldn't make it work. I got to where I would concentrate and say, okay, what can I do? It's kind of like learning to live with something, you know, and I didn't have that. Well, then I thought, well, now if I'm having 8 to 15 strokes a day, how come nothing else is messed up? So I kind of put that out the side and said, this is not really. Now, I'm not stupid enough or foolish enough to think that I'm completely cured. I have a problem. Some of my friends still believe that I have MS. After talking with my wife, probably 20, 30 years ago, I did have an episode back then where I had muscle loss, control loss. So it may have very well be. I'm almost convinced myself. But the good thing is, since I've started taking mangosteen juice, I have not had an episode. I did have one episode because I missed a dose and had a slight flare-up. And since that time, I have continued to take it. Now, I have been able to drop my dosage. I'm back up to 6 ounces, but I dropped down to about 4 ounces for a while, and that does work for me. I don't have any pain or any type of noticeable things comes from that. But as long as they keep making this, I'll keep drinking it. I don't think that I'm cured. Like I said, I don't believe that, but I do feel that the nutrients are in this, that are in the mangosteen fruit. The xanthones in there are nutrients that my body needs to take care of itself, and I think my body can do that if given the right product.
I am a registered nurse, and so I've understood and have been around the health field and have seen so many patients that are in such pain and on so many medications, and they always look at me and they say, is there any way, and I even asked my doctor, is there any way that I can come off of these medications? And my doctor looks at me and says, I don't know what to take you off of, and I don't know what to replace it with. And so, and over the years, I wish that there was something that I could help them with. I mean, you know, that there's exercise and sleep and, you know, eating right and those types of things. But when I got introduced to the mangosteen fruit, I was so excited because here is something that I have been able to back up what these people need. And so, for me personally, I started back in December drinking the juice, and I was only drinking 2 ounces a day, because I didn't have any existing illnesses. I was strictly going for this fruit has been shown in the research to be a high anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, those types of things. And as I've seen in my nursing career for the past 11 years, inflammation is the root of many, many diseases. And with my mom having breast cancer and my grandmother having breast cancer, no one has ever been able to tell me how I can prevent cancer, other than eat right, sleep right, and I do all those things, exercise, I do whatever I can. And so I said, this is great. So I started drinking it 2 ounces a day, and not expecting a thing. I'm just going along, I'm hoping to prevent down the road. I don't really care right now. I'm not expecting anything, but I want to see down the road that I don't have any problems. But probably 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks into drinking the juice, one of the first things I noticed is that I was sleeping through the night. And we have dogs barking outside, and I would always wake up in the middle of the night, and here I am, and I'm sleeping through the night, and that gives me more energy through the day. And that was the second thing I noticed, is that during the day, I didn't feel like I needed a nap. And that's exciting.
In April 2006, I asked my they told me that my disease was advanced, and I asked the doctor how long I had left, and he said he couldn't tell me, but he said probably only a few months. And that's when I decided to take the mangosteen puree, the whole fruit mangosteen puree, and it greatly improved my condition. I don't have a lot of energy, but I feel good. I'm not in hardly any pain at all. I just have to be careful. And I felt like I was about to die. I went to the doctor, and they made several referrals because they found a serious blood disorder, but they didn't know what was causing it. So, to make a long story short, I ended up at Siteman's Cancer Center in St. Louis, and they confirmed what another doctor had suspected, that I had proliferative myelofibrosis, and they found out that it was at advanced stages. I had been chronically ill since, I found out I was very ill in 2000. I had felt bad before that and had gone to several doctors, and they'd never been able to find anything wrong with me. So, I just kind of got a blanket diagnosis of fibromyalgia, and I just thought, well, I'm just going to have to live with that condition and just do the best I can. So I just kind of sucked it up, and just did the best I could, even though I didn't feel good a lot of times. A lot of times I would have problems holding down my job because I had chronic pain, I had fatigue. My immune system was bad as well. I would catch everything. If I would get bronchitis, I would get urinary tract infections, I would get eye infections, just anything that came along. It seemed like I was just chronically fighting, just infections all the time. I just basically did the best I could and try not to complain too much. Then I had gone to a lot of different doctors, and they would refer me here and refer me there, and we spent thousands of dollars trying to get a diagnosis, but we couldn't, because I would have acute episodes where, I would just get really extremely ill. And then finally in 2000, I think it was March of 2000, we'd been on vacation, and we climbed a mountain, and I exerted myself a lot. And by the time I got home, I was extremely ill. I went to the urgent care center where I live, and they found out that I had a mass. And that scared me a lot. And so they referred me to a surgeon. And they told me basically at that time that, well, we have good news, bad news. They said, you don't have a mass, but your spleen's enlarged, and it's about 5 times bigger than it should be. And that's not a good thing to have, because it means that something seriously is wrong. So they tested me for all kinds of cancer. They tested me for lupus, for rheumatoid arthritis, for everything they could think of that would cause that kind of a condition. And everything came back negative. So again, in frustration, after spending a great deal of money and time and frustration, I went back to work and basically gave up. And so my husband started going the holistic route. He started checking the internet and different doctors that dealt with holistic medicine. And I've heard it said that some of that stuff sucks your will to live. It tastes so bad. Well, it does. And the stuff that he had me try was horrible. But I took it, but nothing helped. I just basically, maintained, and I was suffering. My pain level, sometimes it would be off the charts. If it was on a scale of 1 to 10, my pain would be about 11 sometimes. It was just terrible. In October of 2004, my husband introduced me to the mangosteen juice. He found a product that was the whole fruit and had no chemicals, or it was just 100% natural. And I didn't want to take it at first because he'd introduced me to so many things. I was taking so many vitamins, but reluctantly I started taking it, and it really started to help me. I still had a lot of problems with my energy, but it helped me with the pain. I found out that if I took 4 to 6 ounces, I went from a pain level of 9 to 11 on a constant basis to a pain level of 3 to 4, which was a dramatic improvement. Also, I stopped having all these horrible infections that I was having all the time. I was just chronically sick all the time, but I stopped doing that. And gradually, my energy was better, and I had more endurance, I noticed. And I maintained fairly well on the dosage of 4 to 6 ounces a day up until November, and that was when we had a political campaign, and I really overexerted myself for an extended period of time, and I just had a tremendous relapse. And I started going to the doctor in, I guess it was November, and by April they had made this diagnosis of proliferative myelofibrosis. And they did a couple of bone marrow biopsies, and they found out that my bone marrow had failed and that I wasn't producing any blood in my bone marrow, that it was all being manufactured in my spleen and my liver, and that's why my spleen is so grossly enlarged. They told me it was approximately the size of a half of a football. And it basically takes up my whole abdominal cavity. And they told me there was really no treatment. The disease had progressed too far for any medication. Any medication that was available was strictly palliative, and that it might even make me worse. So I opted not to do the medication that was available. They said that the only treatment was bone marrow transplant, that they would have to kill off my immune system, and I would have to have high doses of chemotherapy. And they said that there was a 25% chance I would have a fatal reaction to that. And then they said even if I was successful in if the bone marrow transplant was successful, there was a 60% chance the disease would come back. And so I heard about, I had been taking the mangosteen juice all this time, in the smaller dosages of the 4 to 6 ounces, and I'd heard that high doses of it helped cancer patients. And even though they told me that nutrition had no effect on this disease at all, I took what I'd heard was a 21-day challenge, and that was 25 ounces of this juice per day, along with someone of my size, high amounts of distilled water, which in my case was half a gallon. I took that for 21 days. Things started to turn around right away. I went to the doctor and had a blood count, and they had told me, they expected me to have a blood transfusion because my blood count was so bad. But I'd been on the 25 ounces per day for 8 days when I went, and my blood count was back up to the point I didn't have to have a blood transfusion within 8 days. And I'm doing this today because I know there's people out there that have medical conditions that conventional medicine can't help. And I believe that this can help them as much as it's helped me. If it can help me, it can help anybody. And it's just my hope that anybody out there suffering will at least check into it. Before I started taking this juice, I was taking 6 to 8 ibuprofen per day, every day, just to barely be able to maintain it all. If it wasn't for this product, I would be on morphine. I believe that this is the best product on the market. I believe that if I hadn't have taken the 21-day challenge of the mangosteen juice, I believe I would be dead. I believe that with all my heart. I was having dreams every night. I would wake up thinking that I was dying. I would be having nightmares that I was being choked to death. I'd wake up and completely drenched with sweat and feeling like I was dying. And the mangosteen juice has stopped those symptoms. I have a much better sense of well-being. I don't have the pain. I do still have some pain, but I'm not on a morphine drip like I would be if it wasn't for this product.
I'll tell you about is my story about the whole mangosteen fruit drink that I'm taking. Prior to starting to drink this, I was taking 13 pills 3 times a day for various things, from back pain, leg pain, including nerve drugs for post-traumatic stress disorder caused in Vietnam. I am down to 1 blood pressure pill per day from 4. I take 2 pills for type 2 diabetes and nothing else but the whole mangosteen fruit drink.
I have had various things happen, from being able to use my right arm again to no pain in my lower back. I take absolutely no pain pills or Tylenol. I don't take any brain-altering drugs for the post-traumatic stress. And I've been doing that probably without any pill assistance for about 2.5, 3 years, and have not taken so much as one Tylenol within 6 months after I started drinking this. I have feeling from my knees down in my feet and legs, which I did not have. I took electric shock treatment from the Veterans Administration, probably for approximately 3 years for that. And all of a sudden, about 1.5 to 2 years into drinking this juice, I got the feeling and the circulation and everything back into my feet and legs. So that's about it, other than my eye doctor has written my primary care doctor, because I have absolutely no evidence of diabetes or heart trouble in the back sides of my eyes, which she's pretty marveled by it. That's about it. I drink 2 ounces of juice 3 times a day, followed by 6 to 8 ounces of water. And it's very important, if you decide to do this, to drink the water behind it. Everybody is different, but I found that if I drink 6 to 8 ounces of water after drinking the juice 3 times a day, that it works a whole lot better for me. Before I started drinking this whole fruit puree mangosteen all natural fruit juice, January of 2004, I walked with a cane. I had no feeling from my knees down. I could not use, because of the pain, I could not use my right arm, right hand, or right shoulder at all. The Veterans Administration doctors said they could not operate on my shoulder because of me being a diabetic. And shortly after I started drinking the juice, within 6 months, I probably had absolutely no pain in my right shoulder and right hand and arm. One of the things that I'm discussing with the Veterans Administration right now is my concern is not so much for myself as the news media is talking about these young Iraqi veterans and these young men coming back from overseas. I would like to get as many of them introduced to this mangosteen fruit, because the reports are saying that probably as high as 80% of them will have post-traumatic stress disorder. And I believe that for me especially, and my doctors have it on in the computer, in drinking this juice, I do not take any nerve drugs or brain-altering drugs at all. And I seem to be getting along fine, according to them and myself.
I was playing golf with my friend Steve Hall. Felt a snap in my back because I didn't stretch before playing golf. And what had happened was a little chip came out of one of my vertebrae, or what do you call it back there? Anyway. And it stuck in my sciatic nerve, and in September I was on the ground and couldn't get up. I proceeded to have a bad time, finally got so I could walk, had my handicap sticker hanging from my rear view mirror, and I got introduced to mangosteen juice in February. 3 days later, I was back out playing golf, and I know this sounds like too good to be true, but that's a fact. Also, too, they told me I would never ever probably have all the nerves in my leg back together, because I refused to have surgery. I figured at least I was alive, and nowadays when you go get surgery, you may end up dead. But anyway, I kept on using the juice after finding out I could play golf again. That happened in February. I took the handicap sticker off my car almost as fast as I could get it off my car, because that was really something that just was a thorn in my side. Then in January of this year, 2007, I'm sitting at my desk reading, and all of a sudden I realized I'm not reading through these reading glasses. And I had started using the reading glasses 30 years, well, about 25 years before. And all of a sudden I didn't realize I'm not using these. So my 20 pair of reading glasses, I don't even know where they are anymore. The fact that I can read just like I could when I was a kid is really, really, it's just heartwarming. And I don't know if anybody else that's helped with their eyes. It just is, I know it has helped me. And the sciatic nerve, I can play golf, I can walk, I don't have a limp. And guess what? They said the nerve damage that I had generated because of not having surgery has absolutely almost gone. I don't have any tingle in that leg anymore. I don't have a big toe problem like I had. So there's many, many things that going on internally that I don't know about, but it just makes me feel good to know that maybe the rest of my life I will not be having a blue sticker saying I can park in handicap parking, and that in fact I can read. And the reading part is going on now. I can read fine print better probably than 20-year-olds. And I have no reason to know why this happened. The mangosteen juice has just been good for me, and I would recommend it to anybody. But my doctor said to me, he asked me, what are you doing? And he was looking at my chart because they had just done the blood work the morning before. And he said, you're doing something different, what is it? And he started reading off some of the numbers off that chart. And he couldn't believe it. And so naturally, doctors are very much involved in this. So I'm giving him stuff, and hopefully he'll see the light and get some more of his patients on it. Because I feel it's helped with the blood pressure. I know it's helped the sciatic nerve. My eyes, it's unbelievable.
I noticed maybe a couple months before I first really had my real seizure that I was having problems. I would just kind of stare at something. I couldn't make my mind focus or anything. And one night, my sister was coming down from Georgia, and I was really excited, and I managed to fall asleep, and when I woke up again, she was talking to me, and we were all excited. And all of a sudden, I just felt real weird, and Kathy said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Well, I do this sometimes." And then it got worse and worse. I didn't know what to do. And the last thing I remember is Kathy running in the hall and beating on the walls and screaming. And I knew something was wrong, and then I passed out. And when I woke up, I was at the hospital. And I'd never been to a hospital before for myself. And they, took my vitals and all this. And I went home, and a couple days later, it happened again. And I was never sick. I was always healthy, and it was scary at first. I feel free because I don't have to worry about, getting sick or anything like that, because I can drink the tasty mangosteen juice. Guess that's all. I still have problems, like in the morning, I can't get up early, and sometimes it makes me feel bad, but I just have to learn how to keep myself on a strict schedule. And like I said, it doesn't stop them, but they've definitely gotten better, and I know I'll get over this. It's just kind of a little hill in life.
The thing of it is, it has just changed. Another thing, the lichen planus that I had on my legs, and I couldn't wear my boots because the flesh would just be raw. And if I wore them, it seemed like the heat. I thought it was the heat, whatever it caused the flesh to break out, and most real uncomfortable. And all of a sudden I noticed the places were just disappearing. And some of them were so bad that it discolored my skin on my legs, around my ankles. It looked like a person with a splotchy suntan where all them places. They started disappearing. It started going away, and I thought, surely not. And and then I realized it was the mangosteen fruit juice that was doing all of this. And I was really amazed. And I've tested it. I've quit taking it. And just a few weeks ago, 3 days later, I said, I can't live without this because I have bronchitis. And I'd always taken antioxidants, stuff like that. And I don't have to take those anymore. Whatever it is, you know, I don't know. But, and just a bunch of other problems. Digestive system, my digestive tract has never worked as good as it does now. It's just, it's normal now. You know, a lot of times we live so abnormally for so long, we don't know what normal is. And the well-being is just well worth what I have to pay. And you're going to pay one way or the other. You can be sick and then about die and pay later, or you can stay healthy. And at 58, I need to stay healthy as I can. And I'm going better now than when I was 48. And I got young men in their 20s and 30s. Can't keep up with me. One guy said, "What is he taking?" You know, he thought I was taking some kind of dope. And so to me, the juice is, I don't want to live without it.
I had 5 warts in my hand, and our youngest son was supposed to get married, and my wife says, "You got to get him burnt off." It didn't bother me, but I said, "I'm not going to get them burnt off. Why get them burnt off? They don't bother me." Take the juice and put it in a saucer and put it in the refrigerator overnight. And then it gets a little thick. And then in the morning you put it on the warts and you go to work. And then at nighttime I did it. After I got cleaned up, I did it again. I had 5 warts. The little one, that was gone in 2 weeks. And I had one big one. It was about the size of a dime. And I kept on putting it on there, and 6 weeks, it was gone. I never had a scar. I know just about where it was, but there's no scar, no nothing on there. That's all I know. I tried mangosteen, and it worked. They're gone.
I got hit on January 22nd of this year in the blast. I lost my right leg below the knee, my toes on my left foot, lots of scars on my left leg. I lost the vision in my left eye. I lost my whole nose. I lost part of my middle finger on the left hand, which is kind of funny, I guess. And then a lot of scars on the left arm, and no trauma though. Could have been, but not a lot. Then the first 2 weeks I couldn't eat or drink anything. All they were giving me was IV solution and antibiotics to the IV, and then Leonard goes, "Well, try this." I knew a lot about it then because he used to preach to me every day for the first 2 weeks I was there, and then I tried it and I kept it down. It was the first thing I could keep down. Then the predictions then were, well, you'll probably get 80 to 90% back in about 18 months, and you probably won't walk till June, which is 6 months away. And I'm like, man, this is going to be tough. And then by the end of March, when our buddy came down, I was walking on crutches with my prosthetic leg. And then a week after he left, I was walking without anything. I haven't had infections in my stump, which ingrown hairs, blisters, HO, which is a bone growth on the bones that you have left on your leg, which is very common. Reopening of the scars, I haven't had any of that yet. I mean, I had a couple ingrown hairs, but ingrown hairs aren't a bad thing. Could have been a lot worse. I mean, my buddy still hasn't walked. He got in. He had lesser injuries than me. He still hasn't even touched his prosthetic leg. He got MRSA. I mean, I sat on the same bed he did the same day he got it, and I didn't get anything. In January 26th, 27th, after my first surgery, they go, "You won't walk until June," which is 6 months away. And by March, I was walking. And by April, I was almost jumping. And now, I'm jumping pretty good. I'm jogging. I'm skipping. Shuffling side to side like I used to in basketball when I was an all-stater. So I'm getting quicker and faster. I beat my dad 1-on-1. He gets angry. And then the guy in my shirt, I'm trying to live every day trying to honor him because he was sniped on Thanksgiving 2 days after I was hit my first time, which was kind of a bummer when it happened, but now I'm going to live my life to serve him, his family, and try to help everyone else, try to be an inspiration in other people's lives, try to show them that no matter what life throws you, you got to keep going. No matter if you're hanging by a thread, that thread is still strong enough to keep you going. Also in February, they put a blood filter in because I got a blood clot, but that's normal because I wasn't moving. And then 45 or 90 days later, they tried to take it out, which they couldn't get it out. And then they took an ultrasound of it, and they noticed, well, we don't have to take it out. It's as clean as a whistle still. It's like brand new when they put it in. So mangosteens helped a lot on what I've done. I mean, it kept everything clean there. My blood clot's dissolving now. I mean, I haven't had any inflammation in my stump or my foot, so it's done tons. My new mission is to try to help people and show people what mangosteen juice has done for me and how it can help you and what everything your problems might be. I mean, whether it be an amputated leg or just inflammation in the right knee or something, it can help.
Well, with cancer patients, the reason we see such dramatic results when they drink this whole fruit mangosteen juice is that this juice has the ability to promote apoptosis. Now, apoptosis is, I think of it as the whole process of the orderly growth, maturity, and death of cells. If cells, healthy cells, did not die, then there'd be new cells would come to replace them, but they would wind up being just overpowered by these cells that had lost their ability to die. So the cancer cell is just that. It's a cell that has lost its ability to die. It's the cell that's going to live forever, and it will parasitize everything around it. So it's going to grow and metastasize and eventually kill off the organism. So isn't it amazing that the active components in this whole fruit mangosteen can induce apoptosis? And they do it very dramatically. The last time I got onto PubMed.gov, which was probably a month ago, I found there were 1,434 studies on xanthones, which are the active ingredients in the mangosteen. And I do believe there were about, 60 studies on the mangosteen, which is the fruit from which which is the fruit that has the most abundant quantity of known xanthones in nature. It's the only fruit that has such an abundance of xanthones. So so I would say, and these studies I find them very impressive. I would say they're landmark studies. The study that showed that a particular xanthone could actually induce or reduce inflammation quite effectively in C6 rat glioma cells. To me, that's so exquisitely important, because these were nerve cells, first of all. So that leads me to the conclusion, and I'm extrapolating, that if a person were to drink the juice that contained the whole fruit and all of the rind in it, then that person might find some good effects in terms of reducing inflammation in the nervous system. And what conditions might be benefited? Well, let's start with migraine headache. Let's also add ADD and ADHD. Autism spectrum disorder. Is ADHD and autism spectrum disorder, both of these conditions are thought to be associated with a certain degree of inflammation in the nervous system, as well as in the intestinal tract, as a matter of fact. And this helps on that level too. There are studies that show potent antihistamine effect, the kind of antihistamine effect that would help reduce the inflammation in the intestinal tract, as a matter of fact. There are studies that show potent effect on certain lines of breast cancer cells, and the latest that I found was quite fascinating was a study that compared an extract of the mangosteen to methotrexate as an agent that might help to be used with colon cancer, a certain line of colon cancer. Now, the interesting thing about this study, this was a lab study, a cell study. However, isn't that what oncologists, the cancer doctors, look to these lab cell studies to see if they can conduct small clinical trials on actual cancer patients. And what they've already determined by their studies is that methotrexate is one of the most potent chemotherapy agents against colon cancer, a certain type of colon cancer. So this study took, in the test tube, it took these cancer cells. There were 3 groups. One set of cancer cells was exposed to 1 millimole of this methotrexate, and there was a significant reduction in the cancer cell growth. I'd say, I'm just remembering this, in maybe not the exact number, but about 50%. The next group of cancer cells, colon cancer cells, was subjected to about the same, a millimole of this mangosteen extract. And they didn't state, I didn't read in the abstract just how much suppression of cancer growth there was, but there was a significant amount of cancer growth with that. And then the third test tube, they placed a half the amount of both of those agents, half the amount of methotrexate and half the amount of this extract of the mangosteen together into that tube with the cancer cells. And there was significant increase in cancer cell die-off. So think about that. This is just so enormous. The implications that there should be that you need less chemotherapy agent to get a better result. So I think that can be applied in clinical studies, and we need to look at that. I ask my colleagues to look at that both in a setting where they can start doing some studies on it, but even on the day-to-day, patient contact, office contact, hospital contact. I truly wish that more of my colleagues would look into suggesting the whole fruit mangosteen as a nutritional supplement.